Welcome to the 13th episode of the Nerdom and Other Nonsense Anime Podcast, your go-to source for episodic reviews of spring 2017's best currently airing anime. Today marks the halfway point of the season. We'll be deciding if there's anything we need to cut or add, and we'll also be reviewing some of the season's anime shorts that caught our eye. My name is Leo, and that Destiny 2 gameplay reveal was so disappointing I've locked myself in my room with my cat and been crying for 48 hours straight. Also with me is Bcom.
Yeah, Leo, I'm really sorry that you felt that way. I actually thought the Destiny 2 reveal was pretty good, but then you kept going on about how much you wish it was just like Call of Duty, your favorite shooter of all time, and that it had lots more kill streaks. But you were happy that they added that noob tube grenade launcher in.
Yeah, the grenade launcher looks pretty good. That's about it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll talk about it more next week. So let's get on to this episode. So like Leo said, today we're going to be starting off by covering shorts and some other shows that we caught up on by mid-season, which we haven't been reviewing. If we make any mid-season cuts today, there are a couple of rules. First of all, 4 shows were locked in by each of us at the beginning of the season, 2 and 2. So the only person who can cut a locked show is the person who chose that show. Otherwise, it just defeats the purpose of locking anything in. So I can't cut like Armed Girls Machiavellianism, and Leo can't cut Tsuki ga Kirei. So we're both happy.
Wait, you make it sound like we each want to cut those.
It's kind of like we both do. As far as other cuts, we both have to agree to cut the show if we do, and then replace it with something else we're not watching, unless there's nothing else that we're not watching that is any good. So with all that said, let's get into it.
All right, let me take this first short because it's the only one I've watched.
Okay.
Ani ni Tsukeru Kusuri wa nai. Probably said that totally wrong because it's supposed to be in Chinese, probably. And I pronounced it more like Japanese. But anyways, this show is super hilarious to me. I love the dynamics between the brother and sister. The younger sister, she's a younger sister, I believe. She's like pretty much super tough, and her older brother's a big old wimp. And I was just also like Japan to take note. They're not having a fucking sexual relationship here, which Japan would absolutely do, I would feel like. But I think one of the things that cracks me up every time is like when she goes to chase him down, that the last second she like launches herself into the air and just like body slams into him. It kills
she
me.
Launches herself and then she's like completely sideways in the air before she hits him. It's so weird.
It's just really, I think it's funny and cute, and their facial reactions are really funny to me. But I mean, for a 3-minute and 30-second show, it's pretty amazing. I probably should have said the English title, which is "Please Take My Brother Away," and it's
which I totally agree with her because her brother is a total douchebag.
I don't think he's that bad of a guy. He's just kind of in his own world.
Yeah, and then in like the most recent episodes, like she's started falling in love with his like best friend, whose name is Joy, and he. Like she's sort of oblivious about it like until the most recent episode, and like she fell in love with him because of like a misunderstanding where he paid for her lunch with like a card, but it was the card that her brother stole from her because he forgot his own card. So he's basically paying for her lunch with her own money, but she thinks it's like a super nice thing. I just liked that little like misunderstanding. It was pretty good. And also the names are really weird. Like when they pronounce their names in the show, they're Chinese names, but when they're translated as Secondra, that's the sister's name, and Minuto is the brother's name.
They literally have the word second in there, and the other one's almost says minute.
Yeah. So, it's pretty fun. Like Chinese humor or like manga and anime that's aimed at Chinese audiences usually has like more like potty humor in it than Japanese shows. This one doesn't have that much, but there is like in the first episode like poop jokes, like when they're talking about a sausage. Mm-hmm. He's like, "Oh, I want to turn that sausage into poop so you can eat it," and it's like, okay, calm down. But besides that, the jokes are pretty good, and it's a pretty fun little show, and I think it's by far the best short that is airing this season, because as we move on from here, it only gets worse and worse.
It just goes downhill.
Holy crap. So Second short I checked out was called We Love Rice, which I watched the first like episode and a half until I couldn't take anymore. It's basically a Bishonen, like young boys idol group made up out of different grains of rice. Like each boy represents a different strand or strain of rice that is growing in Japan, and they're trying to get popular because the rice is becoming less popular around Japan, apparently, because people are switching over to eat bread instead. Bread is like the new hotness. So rice grains are forming idol groups together to make rice more popular so that they can sell more rice. And that's a funny premise, kind of, but the show is just so bad. It's very boring and not very well animated, and I don't like any of the characters. So yeah, I would not recommend watching this unless you're really into rice jokes. They make like lots of rice puns too.
The premise just sounds really boring to me.
It is very boring. Then there was another show. Next short I watched was Souryo to Majiwaru Shikiyoku no Yoru ni, which I'm blanking on the actual English translations now. It's something like love time with a priest or something, like, or love encounters with a priest, something like that. So this was just, I didn't realize at first, but this is basically just a hentai. Like, it's made by a hentai studio called Seven Studio, and it's like, it's basically a long form hentai, I would say, where like a priest is childhood friends with this girl, and she's always thought that he's really handsome, but in the first episode it's revealed that he's become like a Buddhist priest, and so she's like, oh, it'd be really inappropriate for anybody to date him now. But then he like runs into her on the street after like they and their friends have been out drinking, and then he takes her home and basically just bangs her. And then like the next day he takes her back home to like the Buddhist temple where his mom and dad live, and he's like, he goes to them and like without telling her about it, he's like, yeah, this is my fiance, we're getting married, I love her. And they're like, oh, okay, like she can move in with you. And then like his mom is all pushing them to just like be free and have sex. And like the girl is just like freaking out about this the whole time because she just thinks it's like super improper. But at the same time, she really wants to be in a relationship with this priest dude. So, I don't know. It's like sort of a fun hentai, but yeah. Do you have any thoughts?
I watched the first two episodes and was already bored with it. I thought it was going to be better, but it's not.
Yeah, like looking at the art, everybody, the big meme was, it's like, oh, it's Saitama from One Punch Man. Yeah. Except he's like a Buddhist monk and he's having sex all the time. And it's not really like that. He doesn't have much personality, but there are some funny moments. There's definitely some funny moments, but nothing too great. And then like I looked into a couple other shorts, but nothing caught my eye. The only thing I tried to check out was the Idolmaster Cinderella Girls Theater show, which is like
I've never watched any of those.
So I love the first season of Idolmaster, but I've never seen Cinderella Girls. One of the main reasons for that I've just been like holding off is like the whole cast of Cinderella Girls is like if you took all the Idolmaster girls and made them younger, which I'm not that interested in. It's like I liked how cute like the original Idolmaster girls were, and they looked like of age. And I don't want a bunch of lowly Idolmaster girls. I really don't care for that. So, but some people like that show, and so they've made this like spin-off, like little theater thing where it's short vignettes of the girls doing cute things. But it's nothing too interesting. If you're a huge fan of Cinderella Girls, you probably would really like this. But if you're not coming into it with that perspective, there's really not much here for you. That's all I would say. So, but yeah, beyond that, did you watch any other shorts or try to get into any other shorts?
No, there was no other shorts that I watched myself, but there were some other shows we're not reviewing that I did watch.
Okay.
The first one would be KADO, The Right Answer.
Cube World,
which I think it's kind of cool. Even like the made up science stuff is totally fine. I mean, but I don't know. I think I'm an episode or two behind. I think I've watched all the way up to episode 5, and it hasn't gotten too political, which I thought it would be. And that was what made me worried it. But I'm actually enjoying a little bit of the politics about it. I mean, there's one whole episode about the UN, trying to get the cube things, but then they solve that in a different way. It's just kind of, I'm not really sure where it's going to go with this whole thing and how it's going to end up. But
yeah,
what do you think about it?
Yeah, I'm up through episode 6. And so regarding the United Nations thing, so like one of my only major problems with this show is that I feel certain aspects of it are really unrealistic and Japan centric. So like say an alien 2 kilometer like sized cube landed on Earth anywhere, it would be a huge international incident. Like there would be press from all other countries. There would be scientists from all countries working on it. There would
it's unrealistic in that aspect.
Yeah, politicians and news. So it takes a while for like when they first contact the cube, it's only the Japanese, and there's no other press there except for Japanese press. And they don't even like talk with the Americans about it. Like if it was like a military emergency, which this would be, like the United States would be heavily involved since it's Japan. And so, yeah, they eventually bring the United Nations into it. But even then it's just like, oh, Japan is still handling everything.
Oh, that's very true of why we would be super involved with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would be on the ground. Like we would be first and foremost right in front of this thing. And all the other experts from around the world would be there too.
Yeah, we would be standing shoulder to shoulder with their defense force for sure.
Yeah, like in Arrival, the movie Arrival, which I originally compared this to, they had like different command centers all around the world, like dealing with this stuff. At least that they were in constant communication with each other until it became a thing where they shut down communication because they thought they could benefit individual
Yeah, but there was also
countries.
multiple ones. Like all the major powers had their own pod thing to look at. So that's a pretty big difference, I would say.
Yeah, that's a different situation. You're right about that. But yeah, otherwise, I like the show because it's kind of thought provoking. They keep the alien keeps like introducing new technology and ideas to the human race because he wants to sort of evolve them past where they are, both technology wise and then in the latest episode maybe even like species wise. So yeah, it's interesting.
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, it's like that's the cliffhanger at the end of episode 6. It's interesting to think about how we would react to that as people, and also just like how you would react to it as a society. So I think it's a pretty thought-provoking show. I wouldn't mind picking this one up to review, but it would mean cutting something else. So we'll have to see if we want to do that. So the next show that we've both, I think, been caught up with is Suka or World's End.
I am behind 2 episodes on this. But I still want to see them.
Yeah, I am up to episode 6 with this. So yeah, I got caught up with the show, and yeah, the problem is the 2 episodes that you haven't watched, I felt were some of the weaker episodes of the show. It seems like the light novel this is adapted from it's starting to get a little bit rushed in the adaptation, which happens with a lot of light novels, because they've started like doing a lot of exposition and bringing in a lot of history into the show very quickly without a lot of proper explanation. And there's also been a lot of character development between Willem and what's her name? The main character. Cthulhu, yeah. No wonder I forgot her name. She's like a Cthulhu monster. So
because it's not a name.
Yeah, they've been getting much closer, but it kind of happened too quickly for me. In the sense that they didn't have many scenes where I felt like, okay, they're falling in love with each other. But then in the last couple episodes, it's been really leaning heavily into their relationship for emotional impact. And I'm just like, they barely know each other. And also he kind of views her as a kid sometimes. Like, and I don't know. It's just strange the way that relationship has built up so fast to me. Some other people would disagree, but I don't know. To each their own. And then the other thing is that as the show goes on, it's become a little bit more of like, oh, Willem and his little harem of girls, because one of the other
did it?
Wait, what?
I said, "Oh, did it?"
A little bit. Like, I'm sensitive to harems, and I'm always looking out for harem. Like at the beginning of this show, like if you just looked at the male to female ratio, you would be like, oh, this might be a harem, because he's just surrounded by girls,
think?
like tons of girls. I mean, most of them are children though, but Nephren, who is one of the older three who go out to fight, is clearly a loli. And like there's in episode 5, the episode starts and they're like all sitting around a table, like having a serious conversation. And she's just sitting on his lap, like just sitting on his lap. And then when they address it, like, hey, why are you sitting on Willem's lap? She like starts clinging to him like a little baby. And it's so weird. It didn't make sense to me. But like, I guess it's cute, but it's also like, why are you doing this?
Oh, they're just going the harem plot line.
Yeah. So I mean, but it's whatever. And then there's the girl with the cat ears, who I always forget her name. She's the third of the fighting girls. She's always saying to Willem like, oh, are you being nice to her because you like little girls? Blah, 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 blah. You like little girls so much, don't you? You really want to sleep with little girls. And I'm just like, okay, I get the joke. We get it. Can we move on?
Wow.
So yeah, otherwise, I think the show is okay. Like it has some interesting, fun ideas and has some fun lore, but it's not really taking the time needed to really get into all of that. It's rushing it a little bit. Any other thoughts from you on that show, Leo?
Nope. I still want to get caught up on it. That's about it.
Okay, so then the third show in the running is called Quan Zhi Gao Shou, which is a Chinese animated show, which is interesting because it's basically the premise is at the beginning of the show, there's this dude who is like the ultimate esports master, like legend of this video game that is kind of like Sword Art Online. And at the beginning of the show, he gets let go from his esports team for like mysterious reasons, and replaced by another guy. Don't really understand why they let him go, but we're sort of finding that out as the show goes along. But he retires, and then he goes and works at an internet cafe, where he meets like a girl who worshipped him, but she doesn't recognize him in person. And he's going by a slightly different name instead of like Ye Chu. He calls himself.
Is she being really cruel towards him too?
Yes, definitely.
Dad, knew it. That's a trope. Okay, go on.
She's like his boss. Like, so yeah, he's going by Ye Shu instead of Ye Chu. So she doesn't recognize him. Which makes no sense. Also, his avatar in the game looks exactly like him. So there's no way she wouldn't recognize him in real life. It's pretty dumb. But anyway, she basically finds out, like, he starts playing the game again on a new server from a new character in her internet cafe, and he also gets hired by her to work the night shift, because she finds out that he's really good at the game, and she thinks that's really cool. And then, yeah, she has a sister who thought she was really good at the game, but it turns out like he's way better than her. And so she's like kind of interested in getting tutored by him. And when he's in the game world, he's just constantly blowing people away with his skill. It's very much like Kirito. Like Kirito was the best at Sword Art Online because he played like the beta. And so he played the game longer than anybody else. And this guy has been playing this game for like 10 years. And like the owner of the internet cafe has only been playing it for 5 years. So like he knows more about the game. That's why he's better than everybody else. There's a lot of parallels between this guy and Kirito. It's also all in Chinese, like spoken Chinese, not Japanese. And the translation, at least on the official subs, which are on YouTube, is really bad. It's really rough.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's the studio's Tencent Animation. They're the same studio who did that show, the short Take My Brother Away, Please, or whatever. So this is the same animation studio. But yeah, the level of animation is pretty good. There's a lot of CGI, but it's like done well most of the time. Like crowd shots are really bad looking. They lean into more photorealistic CGI sometimes for certain like back shots that is a little bit jarring if you're used to the anime style, but I I don't know. I liked certain aspects of the show, like how when he loses his whole account, he has to start over from scratch, and he gets like all this nostalgia from going and like doing his first quests all over again. And I can kind of identify with that. Like if you lost your Destiny account and you had to play through Destiny all again, it would be fun to like go back and like do it all over again, which I've done before. So I can get that. But for the most part, the dialogue is a little bit iffy. The characters aren't so great, especially the female characters are pretty tropey. But it's kind of fun if you want a show that's sort of like about esports and gaming. It's pretty decent. So, should we move on to our regular reviews?
Yes, let's go for it.
All right, so Sunday, we've got Alice and Zoroku. So last week was the special recap episode. So this episode, the Kashimura family, episode 6, starts off the second half of the show. So the show is in absolutely no hurry to get into the plot of the second arc.
Nope.
It opens up and Alice's stomach growls so loud that it wakes her up. So she starts to get out of bed, but realizes it's cold and pulls the covers back over her head. Then she tries to reach her ceiling light pull switch without leaving her covers, but she can't reach it without leaving her covers. So she opens a mirror gate to try to jump up a little bit so she can reach it, but she jumps too high and hits her head on the ceiling. And then Zoroku comes in and tells her to go get the morning paper because it's her job, it's her chore. But she complains about it being cold. And that's everything that happens before the opening credits. And I'm like, okay, they really don't care about moving on the story in this episode. So,
this is kind of the stuff I wanted to see out of this show.
Yeah, and to a certain extent, me too. I agree.
So I'm fine with this.
So yeah, after the credits, Alice complains about the cold again, and she opens the front door and she uses a mirror gate to teleport the newspaper from the mailbox to her hand. So the
she levitates it, right?
Yeah, she like levitates it over to herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, not teleports. You're right. We saw that Zoroku had developed a circular schedule for who has to take care of like trash or make meals or do laundry around the household. So we're like falling into life together. Sanae wakes up and, you guessed it, complains about how cold it is and then crawls under the kotatsu.
I mean, Japanese houses are made with like literal paper thin walls, so
I guess so. So Zoroku then tells Alice to go wash her face, and she's in the bathroom. And you guessed that the water is too fucking cold. So she uses a mirror gate to like lift the water from the sink up to this floating bubble in the air. And then she heats it with another power from her mirror gate. And she goes to stick her face into the bubble, but she made it like boiling hot. So she like yells and like the water goes everywhere. Zoroku runs in and tells her to like stop using her powers. She tries to make an excuse saying like, no, my powers are just a part of my body. So it's like using my hands. And then Zoroku like gives her a noogie.
Dude, it's funny because she's like standing there soaking wet and the whole room's like wrecked.
Yeah, he's like, what happened? She's like, oh, nothing.
The water exploded.
I was just washing my face. So Sanae tells Alice the reason Zoroku wants her to use her powers is so... wants her to not use her powers, is so she gets in better physical shape and isn't so dependent on her mirror gate. And apparently Ichijo also has been giving Alice like homework to do, and she says that she's really good at math and stuff. This is all that's happening in this episode. It's just a lot of cute stuff. So Zoroku and Alice head to work together. She sings to herself and expends a lot of energy, and after 10 minutes she can't walk anymore. And then she sees a guy that's zooming by on a scooter and complains that he's not walking either to Zoroku. Anyway, they get to the flower shop. She helps out a little bit. She like models with one of the bouquets and she tries to lift something else, but she's too weak. Then something amazing happens. Alice goes to throw away a box of apple juice that she was drinking, and her hair is so stupidly anime long that she trips over it and face plants.
Dude,
and I
it's
laughed
great.
really hard because I love the idea that this anime finally admits that her stupid hairstyle is stupid and completely impractical. And Zoroko's like, girl, you need to get a haircut. So that's like basically what they're talking about. So it turns out though that they're helping out because they're going to set up flowers for an engagement party. And it's the engagement party of the Yakuza guy from like the first episode of the series. He's finally getting married to his bride-to-be, who is really young looking for some reason. Like, she's maybe a high schooler. Maybe she's older than that, but like, she seems real young to be getting married.
She's like 16. That was the only thing I had a problem with this episode, was the Yakuza guy marrying a high schooler. Is just so weird, and I don't understand why it was written into the show. So that means when he went to propose, he proposed to her? What?
Yeah. And Zoroko's like kind of shocked by how young she is. It's like not just me, it's not just Leo. It's like, no, it's in the show like, wow, she's really a little bit too young. And so Alice is asking the young fiance like what marriage is, and she says it's when you and the person you love become family, which is a really unclear definition of marriage.
Yes.
In that sense, she would be getting married to Zoroku, probably. Then for some godforsaken reason, we get a scene of Alice naked in the bath with Sane.
Hold on, this is why I don't have a problem with this part, because so the bath scene was, I felt like it was done in good taste. They completely blocked out any sexualization of Alice, but they did give a little bit of underboob with Sane. But I mean, let's be real here. This is anime. The fact they waited till episode 6 to give any bit of fan service, and very mild at that, is just freaking amazing.
Yeah, I would say like the main fan service of Alice up to this episode would be her really scantily clad like hospital gown, or like her experimentation place gown that like rides way up her leg and has like a slit. But that's just what she wore, and that's how she pictured herself. Yeah. Like, so you can't blame her.
Or maybe the scene where she was tied up.
Yeah,
because that was almost would you say almost voyeuristic.
It was voyeuristic the way the camera was like swooping over her, but it was also like, it was pretty, she was dressed like she wasn't naked or anything. So,
yeah. But really this is the worst that this show has done. So the
only part of this scene that I didn't like, so Sane is like sitting outside the bath on her bench, like cleaning herself, and Alice is already soaking in the bath. And they're like having a little cute conversation about like who's family and what is family. And Sane is like, "You're my family," and she jumps into the bath behind Alice and starts like tickling her all up and down, which I was like, you don't see anything, first of all. And it's like, okay, yeah, sisters would do this, that's fine, but it's also like, this is anime. Like the way you also said like this is anime before, like you're like, yeah, it's a miracle we've only gotten to this point at episode 6, and you're right, but it's also like, do we need to fondle the little girl on camera in the bath? Like, I don't know, I just have issues with that, but that's me.
The tickling was kind of cute, I thought, but
yeah, I think like if you view it from that point of view of like, hey, we're sisters and we're playing in the bath, it's kind of cute.
And let me get this straight, I get in Japan, like they family members like bathe together like all the time. Yeah, that's true. It's even in what Ghibli movie is it where the father even bathes with his 2 younger daughters?
Oh, is it shoot, I forget which movie that is. Damn.
It's not. No, maybe it is. Is it Totoro?
Is it Totoro? I think that's the one that came to mind. I think it might be Totoro. Yeah.
Yeah, but like that's just like how normal the thing is, so that scene's not, it's weird to us because we're American, but probably to a Japanese person, they probably didn't blink an eye or even barely remembered that scene.
Yeah, I think you've pretty much convinced me on that scene being pretty tame. Like, at first I was like, I was curious about it, but then I think you're right about it. Yeah.
Yep.
So Zoroku takes Alice to a beauty salon to get her hair cut. And Zoroku leaves her there alone and goes out to buy her a plushie toy, but also to meet with Ryu Naito to get what looks like some paperwork from him. We don't know what that is until later. Alice gets her hair cut into like this short bob haircut, which she really likes. But by the time Zoroku gets back to the hair salon, she has left, and he starts freaking out and frantically looking for her. We see Alice like singing and walking down the street, and then this woman recognizes her and asks her what she's doing, and she says that Zoroku's late, so I'm going to meet him. And the woman's like, "Oh, that's nice." And I'm like, dude, you know how little this girl is. Why wouldn't you tell her to go back to the salon and wait for Zoroku? You fucking idiot. Like, that could have solved so many problems. But, Alice continues walking around the market, like smelling crepes and stuff. And Zoroku's like frantically searching, and Alice realizes it's getting late and that she ought to go home. She realizes that she's lost. So she pulls out her mirror gate to teleport, but then she thinks about what Zoroku said about not relying on her power for everything. So unfortunately, this is the wrong time to listen to that advice, but she walks a little bit more and then she starts to cry. And then eventually Zoroku gets a call from a police officer who found her, and he comes to pick her up, and he scolds her for not waiting, but also apologizes for being late because it's partially his fault too. And he explains, like, you shouldn't rely on your power for everything, but you also don't have to avoid it either. Just use it wisely. And all in all, he's like he's pretty soft on her because he was so worried. And it turns out that the plushie that Zoroku bought Alice was a cute pig because, she loves bringing pigs into existence.
And there was also there's that joke earlier that the Yakuza guy made.
Oh, which one?
When Zoroku asked about the pig because Alice wanted to see it, and he's like, "Oh man, I ate that." And he's like, "What?" Oh, and he's like, "No, I'm just kidding."
Oh man. And then she hangs like the pig from her like light pull switch, and then Zoroku, before Alice goes to bed, asks her to come to the living room with him and Sanai, and he holds the paperwork from earlier, and he hands it to her, saying they're adoption papers, and asks her if she wants to become an official part of their family. And her name would be Kashimura Sana. She gets up and starts dancing with Sanae, and she's super happy about it. She obviously wants to become part of their family. And then the next morning, she goes to fetch the paper again, and even though it's super cold, this time she walks out to get it, and her name is written on the mailbox.
Yay!
Yeah. So, I mean, I had some issues with that bath scene, but the other issue I had with this episode was that, yes, I like that it's very cute slice of life, but then why did we have 5 episodes of super dark intro? Like, my curiosity is, are we going to get back to like the whole storyline that we set up? Like, are we going to learn more about the institute where Alice came from? Is Kito going to come back into the show somehow and try to like, evilly manipulate her again? Or is this just going to be like a slice of life show now that just had a weird 5-episode dark buildup? That's what I don't know. Like, I'm so confused about what the direction of the show is.
Yeah, I try to kind of how I think this would work. It does kind of make the show, as much as I dislike the first half of the show, it does kind of make the show realistic in this sense. I mean, if little girls with superpowers showed up, of course the government would be right on top of it. Mm-hmm. So basically the first half is kind of like a necessary evil so that the last half makes better sense. So I'm hoping. I've also read many books that you almost have to just make it past the first chapter or two while they set up their world and characters before it actually really opens up and becomes amazing. So like, I've seen this formula before. So I just really hope that's the direction it's going in.
Yeah, I remember, at first I was thinking, like, when I first watched this episode, it was like almost a week ago now, and I was thinking, man, I don't know where this show is going. I almost want to drop it. But now I'm like really curious to see where the hell it goes.
Because this episode did basically exactly what I wanted from this show. And I'm like, okay, now you're going to do what I want?
Yeah. I mean, we know that she's going to meet these 2 girls, and the question is whether it's going to get dark again or if it's going to just stay light and happy. I'm sure it will end happy, but I want to know, before we get there, are we going to have more dark parts of this show? So I don't know. We'll see.
You had one more point, though.
Which one was
about the Alice's mind of a little girl? She has absolutely zero emotional trauma.
Yeah. So see, the reason that I didn't like how dark it got was, like, we had this scene with her getting held down in the back of the car, and traumatized and shot in the leg by a gun. And the thing is, like, she's a little girl. Like, she would take a lot of time to get over that, in my opinion, like, because it's such a tragic event, unless she like completely blocked it out of her mind. Like, the only explanation that I really have for this is that right after that, she like kind of resets her whole body back to like when she was in a hospital gown, and she heals herself. Maybe she blocked it all out of her mind at the same time. But if she didn't, if she remembers what happened to her, like, I feel like she would be going through a lot of more psychological trauma that they kind of just avoided.
Possibly. Scene. But then again, children tend to recover from things fast. And not to mention, her whole life up to that point was basically being held captive. So that was all she knew. That was her norm.
That's another good point.
And if it was her norm, she wouldn't really know to be, affected by it. I mean, think about it. There's like kids, there's little kids that'll fall down and hurt themselves, but they don't cry, but they look at the parent for a reaction. And then like there's the parents that like run towards them, and the kid's like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to cry now. But then there's other kids that do that and they just get back up and they run on.
Yeah, that's true.
So some kids get conditioned to be like that and whatnot. So just a little bit. That's how I explain it to myself.
Yeah, no, that's a good headcanon for all that.
Yeah. I just got one last point. I really like the flower arrangement stuff in here. I always like to learn new stuff. Like, I would totally love to go work with a florist for a month. And I like obtaining skill sets all the time. So that would just be kind of a cool one to have, I think.
Yeah, no, that would be good to know. Yeah.
You got anything else?
No, that's it. Let's move on to the next show.
Woohoo! Little Witch Academia. I have a little, remind me at the end, but I have a little thing at the end about some transgender issues. Not issues, but I saw a lot of things that I thought were talking about transgender people.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So yeah, I'll point them out to you when we get to the end. But anyways, we start off with a young Diana at her sick mother's bedside because she's apparently bedridden. But her mother is telling her favorite story about Beatrix, who is one of the old 9 witches and also the one who started the Cavendish family. So, that's great to have that in our lineage. So in this story, there's a line that states, when traditional and modern powers mingle, the gate to an unseen world will open. Diana's mother believes she will be able to open the gate and create a new future for the Cavendish name. But, it turns out it's probably Akko who's going to do this, because she's the one who the Shiny Chariot Ride chose. So that's our opening scene. And then we go on to having Akko walk in on Barbara and Hannah, who are Diana's, two best friends who always follow around, crying in like the library or something like that. They tell Akko that she has to return home and become the head of the family. And so she's going to be leaving, was it Luna Nova? Yeah. The reason she has to do it so quickly is because the ritual to do this can only be done every so many years or something like this. They actually tell us later, which is something about stars aligning, and it won't happen again for like way too long. So if Diana misses it this time, it will be just too long before it happens again. So that's why her time restraint is so she has to leave literally that night. Of course, Akko then goes on a search for Diana and eventually finds her on a balcony out on one of the towers. Akko's up there expressing her concerns for Diana, but Diana still insists on leaving. And there also seems to be a custom that you have to leave secretly at night, not even talk to anyone. So Diana says she's already breaking the rules by talking to her. Akko goes as far as saying, "I can't sit by while my rival tries to leave." And Diana's like, "I've never once said you're my rival. I don't think of you as a rival at all." So it's just all Akko's head. But of course, as we all know by now, how freaking stubborn Akko is. She immediately runs off to the professor after Diana flew off on the room and asks her where Diana lives. Lotte and Susie have been listening this whole time and have already packed Doctor's thanks for her because they wish to see Diana come back also. Meanwhile, Diana has made it home and we get this overview shot of her mansion. And things to note are that it's surrounded by this huge moat, and on the back part, it's almost a lake at this point. And you see all these ruins of pillars sticking out, and there's a unicorn statue on one of them with a big glowy horn. And that's like the last they talk about that, but I feel like that has to be important. It just stuck out way too much. Diana gets inside the mansion and is greeted by one of her servants. And I just wanted to note, and I asked you, that we actually see Diana smile, who I thought was for the first time in this series actually smile that I can recall. I still haven't found any evidence otherwise.
There's some like smirks, and like in the only other time I really saw her smile was when she is in the crowd in the movie at Shiny Chariot's performance. Like she's in that crowd, but you have to go looking for her because she's kind of hidden in there.
Yeah, see, I didn't even know she was in the crowd. And it's only in the movie part?
I think it might be in like the first or second episode of the show also. I'm not sure if they covered that or if it's only in the movie. But yeah. Or the OVA, whatever.
Right. She takes note of like how run down the house has become, and that most of the servants have left already. At this point, there's like this little snake that slithers near her, and she like pulls out her wand and shocks it, and it like slithers away under a person's dress who has just shown up. So yeah, they're definitely painting this person as a bad guy.
Yeah.
Diana addresses her as Aunt Daryl. They kind of draw out that RYL so you don't get Daryl. He's like a Daryl. It also turns out that they will be hosting a visitor that day also, because I think that she just overnighted in this next morning. As Aunt Daryl leaves, the lights go out and her eyes glow red. Can we make her any more of a bad guy?
Yeah, like seriously ominous there.
Okay. Got the point across. This is a bad person. Then we go back to Akko dragging her suitcase on a dirt road during the day. She's tired of walking. She's hungry. And when she hears a car coming, she decides to hitchhike and like holds up this cardboard sign, please typing to blah, blah, blah. The car zooms past and then like Akko just falls over. She's like, darn it, this isn't going to work. But then the car backs up and she perks back up immediately with the biggest smile on her face. But then when the car window rolls down, it's none other than Andrew. Yay,
my ship is happening.
And he's come to the rescue again. Oh, you're not on that Diana and Akko shipping?
No. I see that going, but we can't all have Yuri dreams. We can only have Yuri memes. So don't just continue.
Okay. So now Akko is now sitting bitch between Andrew and his father. Do you understand that term?
Yeah, riding bitch. Yeah, I got
you. Yeah, you're stuck in the middle. Like when me and all our buddies and we're trying to carpool to a place, and we're cramming 5 people into a car, you don't want to be the last person to say not bitch, because then you're sitting in the middle.
I used to have to call shotgun, and I got so tall that people were just like, okay, you ride shotgun. That's one of the big perks of being tall.
Yeah, I have a friend or two that like they're just so tall, and if it's them paired up with some of the shorter people, we're like, yeah, you're going up front.
Yep.
Yeah. The two guys have like this back and forth, basically at Akko's expense. It's pretty funny because it's just one of those moments where she's like, I'm here, right? After that, Akko asks Andrew why they're going to Diana's. It turns out they were invited because they have something they want to show them. Andrew then asks Akko why she's going and very enthusiastically says to bring Diana back, to the school or whatever. On to the next scene. They're arriving and we see Diana on horseback seeing them arrive.
Cut here for a second. Diana, especially in that one scene where she's like on her horse with all of her like, hounds. Noble horse riding regalia and stuff. She is so cute. Oh my God, she is so cute. And she stays in her horse riding like clothes for a little while, and it's just the cutest fucking outfit. You can continue.
Oh man. So they immediately shoots back down to like some of the most evil looking people I've ever seen in this show, specifically greeting them. I'm talking eyes dead to the world, and then evil twins from The Shining talking in unison evil here.
Come play with us.
Not to mention Aunt Daryl has a snake familiar lurking somewhere up her dress. So yeah, it was just, man, this show, when they want to paint somebody evil, they make it glaringly obvious.
They go all out.
Yeah. So they're inside now when Diana shows up in her horse riding attire and berates Akko for even being there. Andrew and his father get escorted to a different room. And then Daryl starts in on Akko as well. But then Diana suddenly comes to her defense. So, it just shows that she cares for Akko a little bit. She says, I will not tolerate such disrespectful tones toward our own guest. Once Diana has led them away, going towards what will be Akko's room for the night, she tells her she'll be leaving the very next day. So then we get to the next scene of Akko in a pink dress and one of the servants brushing her hair, and it's like hurting her because her hair, she just doesn't take care of herself. Her hair is probably all tangled. The maid's going on about having to drag this dress out just for some common person. It turns out this dress was from Diana's 11th birthday. This causes Akko to like frantically check the fit and decide that, damn, it is a good fit. So like Diana has like matured well beyond Akko. Akko gets kind of curious, starts looking around Diana's room when she finds a stuffed bear. She asks Diana if she at one time did have a soft spot for cutesy stuff, and Diana yells at her not to touch it. Her mother probably gave it to her, and it's very precious to her. I'm almost sure. But next to the bear is like this little fancy box that Diana picks up and takes out of the room with her. We just get to see her open it, and inside it's a shiny chariot car. So she, at least when she was a little kid, did admire shiny chariot and probably still holds a little bit of that back in reserve. But
she definitely doesn't want Akko to know that for whatever reason.
Yeah. And she treats it as like some kind of weakness, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. We go right back to Akko in the room, and the servant still trying to pretty her up. Akko finally makes the connection that if Diana becomes the head, then that means her parents are dead. So she gets a little sympathy with her. Also, if Madame Darrow continues doing what she's doing, they will go through all of the Cavendish's assets before long. Like, she gets all this information from the maid. We go to a scene of everybody sitting around the dinner table, and for once, Akko decides to be like respectable with her eating like a pig, but of course she gives up, and then it's just like stuffing her face and stuff. Andrew's father, Paul, he finally asks, what is it that they have asked him here for? This is when Aunt Darrow says she would like him to purchase some things, because she would like him to have the honor of it, is how she preaches it. And she wheels out like these 3 carts with these things on it. It kind of makes Diana angry, but she keeps it to herself for now. The first 2 items aren't important. It's the third item that's important, which is the tapestry that we saw in the very beginning when she was talking with her mom, Beatrix. But Paul doesn't want any of these things, and he doesn't want to stay over his welcome, so he gets up and leaves. Aunt Darrow's like still trying to sell them to him, but Diana's like, stop. You're trampling over the Cavendish's name. At the end of the argument, Diana proclaims she will become the head of the family, and it's just the end of the episode.
Yeah, and she's going to do the ceremony that night because it's like...
That's when the stars align or whatever.
Yeah, the stars are all aligned or something, yeah. So, this show, I feel like it keeps teasing me with moments where I feel like Akko is finally going to learn to fly her broom. Like in the in the early part of the episode where she's trying to convince Diana not to leave school. Like they have this long argument, and then Diana flies off on her broom, and Akko's like really determined to go after her. And you see this shot of Diana from the front, and there's like a lot of room in the scene in the back. And I was like, oh, this would be such a cool emotional moment if Akko like finally learned to fly her broom to like
she comes Diana zigzagging back up to her upside down on her broom.
Yeah, even that would be great. I would love that. I really want to see a scene like that before this series ends. Like I so badly want to see Akko learn how to fly, but maybe she never will.
Saving it for the finale. You never know.
It could be. They've dragged it on this long. We're on episode 19, so and yeah, I mean, I'm really happy this episode is a 2-parter. Because I like seeing Akko and Diana like finally get together, and I'm hoping that by the end of this episode they'll be next episode. Sorry, they'll be much closer and hopefully on the same page a little bit. Because I think they both know that they have a lot in common, but they're just too stubborn to admit it. And so I'd like to see them become friends, basically.
Oh, I'm pretty sure they will by the end. Or if not, it'll be like this unspoken friendship or respect, something like that.
Definitely. So you want to move on?
I want to talk to the little transgender stuff I saw in this episode.
Oh, I forgot to remind you. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, geez, I told you to remind me. I had to remind myself. So anyways, let's start off with Aunt Darrow. Her name, Aunt, female. Darrow is a boy's name. I've never heard or seen a girl.
Have you seen the movie Splash with Daryl Hannah? Or she was also in Kill Bill Volume 2 as the nurse.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. That's the only example I'm coming up with, though.
Yeah, I'm sure there are examples, but I've always known Daryl's being a masculine name. The second thing, there's a snake in her dress. What do you think the snake represents?
Well, I think it more represents evil than a dick.
I think it can represent a dick. It's a snake. I mean, when you go camping with girls, you always tell them to be careful of the trouser snakes, right?
I love that you think she's transgender because the snake.
I have a third point. Her outfit at one point is literally separated. Top half is masculine, bottom half is feminine. The bottom half is a dress. The top half is literally like a suit jacket and a tie, which is mostly represented with masculinity.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So like it's those three things that I saw, and like a little bit of her design, I don't know, just kind of looks like that to me.
Yeah, she got short hair and like some like slightly masculine angled face.
Mm-hmm.
I think you might have a point. I'd be shocked in the next episode if like you completely called it. I would be like, oh my god, I guess I need to notice trouser snakes more in anime.
You owe me a beer.
I totally
if I
just thought it was
this.
like to depict that she's an evil witch, like an evil poisonous witch who controls snakes and stuff. I don't know, but we'll see. We'll find out.
It just felt like it to me, and I mean, if it is, I thought it was just kind of a cool idea to write that in the show.
That would be a pretty cool idea. So, moving on to Monday's and Grimoire of Zero. We've got episode 6, which is titled 13. So yeah, this episode starts out with 0 and 13 still battling from the end of episode 5. I'd like to emphasize that this is the biggest moment of conflict in the series that we've had so far. 13 was introduced basically as the villain last episode of this whole show. And even though I talked about how he's like a little bit boring as a character, he's still like this major adversary. So they're fighting and it's climactic, and then a dinner bell rings and they instantly stop fighting. And 13 says he'll prepare a magnificent roast lamb for them to eat. And Zero's like, yes, you can't battle on an empty stomach. I'm like,
this show has already noted on a couple of occasions of how important food is to Zero.
This is true.
We can kind of expect this from somebody else who lived in the cave with them. I mean, number one, she might have written a book that could end the world just so she could get out and eat delicious food.
This is definitely true. I mean, I just felt it took a lot of air out of that scene. And like out of the whole dynamic between them too.
It did end very abruptly. Yes.
So it turns out that the place that they were teleported to by 13's spell is actually the royal palace in the royal capital, which is called Plasta. And they eat some dinner together, and apparently 13 really likes honey and sweet tastes because Zero is like complaining about the soup being overly sweet. But when they get to dessert, she really likes it because it's like a overly sweet dessert and it's delicious. Mercenary asks them if they're friends, and they both say that they're compatriots. They don't want to say that they're friends, 0 and 13. And 13 says he only attacked because Albus sullied Zero's name when they first got down there. So I guess he wouldn't have attacked her otherwise. At least he claims. Albus warns Mercenary that the food might be poisoned, but Mercenary just says it's not. And when Albus asks him how he knows, he just says, I'm an animal. And that's it. That's his only explanation for knowing that it's poisoned. I guess like some
he's
animals have
suggesting he
instincts.
could probably sniff it. Yeah.
Yeah. But also, I don't know, whatever. I'll gloss over that part. 13 tells them they chose to become a sorcerer of the state because it was the most effective means to get the Grimoire of Zero back after it had been stolen by the sorcerers of Zero. And he tells Albus that the sorcerers are killing innocents, even if it's because they're only trying to survive. And Albus is protesting this whole time, but 13 tells him the biggest mistake the sorcerers made was simply just banishing the witches who they couldn't control, which led to this huge group of rogue witches that have been killing humans at will and causing havoc. So since they didn't deal with their own problem, it's now caused this huge problem that 13 sorcerers need to deal with.
It's kind of true.
Yeah. So 13 tells Albus that he could still be a valuable asset. He demands that he devote himself to 13 or be burned at the stake.
It's not much of an option there.
Yeah, that's a non-option. So he gives him a night to think it over. And he also tells Zero to just return to her caves, but she refuses. And she clarifies for Albus that the one he calls him indeed did steal the Grimoire of Zero, like 13 says. And he kills every witch in her cave except for her and 13. He killed all of them. So Albus asks Zero if she's still his ally, and this is where she drops a bombshell, where she clarifies that she never once said that she was going to be Albus's ally. And he looks at Mercenary and he's like, are you not my friend? And he also sides with Zero. And then Albus just breaks down crying, realizing he doesn't really have any real friends at this table. And he might die tomorrow, basically. So that's pretty brutal for Albus, that whole scene.
Yeah.
Zero explains that she wrote the grimoire thinking that everyone would want its useful powers and that it would make humans want to bring witches into society. 13 warned her of the dangers of writing this dangerous book, but she admits, yeah, I was foolish. I should have destroyed it when you told me to. And now, like, the tension starts to ratchet up, and you can hear, like, the musical score getting more and more tense. 13 and Zero walk off separately together. Mercenary is sent to a room he's given to rest in, and Albus is also taken separately to, like, a prison cell. 13 is questioning Zero for not making a contract with a Beast Fallen, which he considers to be a very dangerous thing to do. And Zero explains that Mercenary is her willful servant, and that she will dirty her own hands to retrieve the grimoire. And so she doesn't need 13 getting involved with it in order to question her and Mercenary. Because of how quickly Zero turned on Albus, Mercenary wonders if he is now in danger of being tossed aside by her. And this is where we see the mouse with red eyes from last episode shows up on Mercenary's windowsill and asks him to follow. So he follows the mouse outside and down into this dungeon of a tower, and it's where 13 is hanging out. He's got his basement library down there. And the little mouse is his familiar. So he tells him that he can control any animal with inferior cognitive abilities, and Mercenary asks if that includes Beast Fallen. He kind of just smirks. He doesn't say anything in response. And then 13 hands Mercenary a vial filled with magical potion. And Mercenary asks him why he's making such scary stuff that anybody could use. You don't have to even be a sorcerer to use this stuff. And he says, well, don't worry about this potion. This potion just removes magical effects. And if Mercenary was to pour it on his Beast Fallen body, he would return to his human form.
I don't see it in your notes, but I'd like to say he contradicts himself by saying mages shouldn't be trusted. And then Mercenaries trusting him. It's just a huge contradictory.
Wait, so who said it? Did 13 say it or Mercenary?
13 said it straight to Mercenary's face that you shouldn't trust mages. He's a mage.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That is my only note that I put for the show, because I read that part and I went, I was like, Mercenary, you're way smarter to fall for this horrible line.
Maybe he's not too smart, because he totally gets manipulated in this scene. And
yeah.
So, Mercenary realizes that 13 must have guessed what his contract was with Zero to eventually turn him into a human. And you can tell Mercenary is basically trying to bribe... Sorry, 13 is basically trying to bribe
how do you know
Mercenary. That? I don't know.
I don't remember. I don't think they told him or anything.
I think he just assumed. I think they actually kind of explained that he assumed that what's the only thing that a Beast Fallen would want from a witch is to be turned back into human form, I guess.
Maybe.
I don't know. 13 tells Mercenary to leave and run away because Zero is a witch of terrifying power. And he asks if Mercenary wonders why she hasn't taken his head already. And so 13 says that Zero offered the heads of Beast Fallen as sacrifices to summon the demons which she used to create the spells for her grimoire. And then 13 says that Mercenary was no one special and would eventually meet the same fate. So he continues to just like confuse Mercenary and erode his confidence in Zero. And like you see the camera is like circling around the vial, and in the reflection on the vial, it's catching Mercenary and 13's faces. It was a pretty cool shot as like he's just like spinning and losing himself in this like web of lies and deceit that 13 is throwing at him. So Mercenary returns to his room to pack his stuff and run because he's been convinced by 13. But Zero catches him in the corridor and asks him to go out in the town. And he tells her that she's the one who's been tricking him this whole time, and he pulls out his sword on her. And so Zero immediately assumes that it's 13 who's been up to his old devilish tricks. And she screams, "You fool!" so loud that it gives Mercenary like this splitting headache. It looks like it brings him back to his senses for a second. And Zero tells him that 13 is a prodigy at turning the seeds of doubt into flames of fear, which means that Mercenary has doubted her at least a little bit this whole time. And she's really upset by that.
Well, he's always has doubts since the beginning, so.
Definitely, yeah. So she insists that she never meant to kill him, and especially since they signed their blood oath with each other at the beginning. And she tells him to run and get out of her sight and regrets ever hiring him. And that's where the episode ends. So, drama.
That was it. I was just didn't like that contradicting part, and I felt like it was out of character for Mercenary to fall for it.
Yeah, there was a lot of like dramatic twists that happened kind of quickly this episode. First the fight ending, then Zero turning on Albus, which I guess was a long time coming, but also they're clearly friendlier with him than that conversation led us to believe. And then, Mercenary quickly turning on Zero because of somebody whispering in his ear, some doubts. So, some quick, I don't know, maybe like things that should have taken longer to happen all happened in this one episode.
Well, all the episodes up to this point was all three of them slowly building their trust with each other. Like Mercenary finally letting both of them just fall asleep on him, stuff like that. And then they just broke it all apart in one episode.
Definitely.
Okay, let's do Wednesdays. We have Sakura Quest, episode 7, The Mansion in Purgatory. Yoshi, whatever, finds Maki and brings her to the set where they are recording the movie. Riri is currently performing in the scene and doing a terrible job. Maki decides she will do the scene instead, but then changes her mind quickly when she realizes Riri will just be scared her whole life performing in front of people if she takes her place. So Maki runs out and gives her some advice that we do not hear yet. And then they finally get the scene recorded because she suddenly does a phenomenal job. It's supposed to rain the next day, so they have to move. So they're going to move to doing the indoor scenes a day early of recording. This poses a problem because it's about mini zombies and they need the kids that are elementary schoolers and can't just ask them to come a day earlier. Maki has an idea though, so she gets a hold of her brother and asks him if they can recruit the kids from the Taiko Club, because she knows he has elementary schoolers in there. Yoshino also still needs to find a house to burn down, and just decides to try to contact the owner herself real quick. She makes a simple phone call, and the owner picks up. Obviously, Yoshino has found out that Shiori lied to them, but just before she confronts her, we get a flashback of a little Shiori being read a story from an older lady that used to live there. And that's where Shiori is when Yoshino does find them to confront her. Yoshino says, "You didn't say anything when I was searching for other houses, so why didn't you care about the memories with those houses, She's just being selfish about her own memories with this house. And also, you shouldn't be living in the past." I yawned at this point. Shiori says only someone who abandoned their hometown could say that, and she runs off all dramatically. So they get plenty of kids because Maki's brother asked for their father's help, who turns out to be the vice principal, and he just simply used the emergency contact tree phone to round up all the kids.
That seems like an abuse of power, but whatever.
I don't know. It's just, I don't know. When I was in Boy Scouts, we had that. So
yeah, and we had that in school too. Yeah, it was like,
there's nothing wrong with simply calling and asking, Would your kid like to come and be a part of this? You know,
yeah,
that's true. Yes or no. So kids being kids, of course, get like these two getting a little squabble, and like Sane tries to intervene and stop the kids, but instead the kids like gang up on her and call her big butt over and over.
One of the kids slaps her on the ass.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, did you not see that part?
No, I missed it.
He like winds up and slaps her on the butt, and then runs over with the other kids and it's like, "Hey, big butt!" And it's like, "Oh my god, this kid is a freaking player."
Oh, that's great. But anyways, the actress lady, thanks for giving her name because it's not on my anime list.
Oh yeah,
Moe. She like walks in. She already has like two of the kids under control and just like easily gets them to settle down. Maki didn't want to be there because her dad was, and instead goes to the school to wander around. In a freak coincidence, Maki runs into Riri at the school, who is there because she is bad with kids. So like when you're in a town, you run away and go to the unoccupied school, apparently, which was their both train of thought. Riri thanks her earlier for advice on the acting the other day, and then we find out what she said. She said acting is just being a different person. It's nothing to get worked up about. You don't have to think about putting on a good performance. Just enjoy the situation. Blah, blah. Back to them shooting another scene where Sane even explains that the plot makes like no sense. The show's calling out itself because it's about love and zombies in this rural weird town. Yoshino and Shiori have been paired up to block the road off. So, you know, really awkward here. Yoshino apologizes for yesterday, and Shiori kind of acknowledges that she was being kind of unreasonable. And she also says that the old woman may have liked it better if it was preserved in the movie and just not forgotten. It's basically her way of convincing herself that's okay to burn it down. We go back to Maki walking through town and remembering a couple of old memories of her young self practicing acting. She's kind of remembering that she loves acting just to be acting. And there's also this wicked good shot of the cherry blossom trees again. The show likes to do this. Maki eventually goes to Angelica's cafe for a tarot card reading when her brother walks in with an old recording of her performing elementary school's Snow White play. Her dad at the time was in charge of recording the play, but got chewed out by the principal because he like only recorded Maki because it's kind of funny and cute.
That was cute.
Maki kind of realizes her dad still loves her even if they fought in the past. We haven't figured out why she's mad at him so far. We just don't really know. But then Angelica kind of points out, that, he was your first fan. So, cute, adorable stuff. We're back at one of the outside sets. The director's making like even more unreasonable requests by having the heroine jump into the burning building because she's still in love with her zombie boyfriend.
Yeah, this is so dangerous.
Oh god, all the other people, like this has been an ongoing thing. All the other like script writers or people that work on the set are like, Jesus Christ, what crazy thing is he changing now? But then Moe agrees that she wants to shoot it this way because she feels like that's how her character would react. But her agent's like, whoa, that's way too dangerous. We've invested too much money in you. There's no way we can let you do this. But then that's when Maki steps in and says she can do it in her place. So Maki has finally realized she loves acting even if she doesn't become famous in the process. They shoot the scene, and fortunately the director likes it. It was kind of dramatic. I liked her running up to it and falling into the pit. It was cool. Turns out Yoshino also got the crew to add the old lady's name to the credits. So that's really cool. It makes Shiori really happy and kind of more at peace with the burning of the house. Afterwards, we get this cute scene of all the girls drinking beer and eating snacks in their pajamas, congratulating themselves on all the hard work they've been going through. The next day, they get a call from a Tokyo production company, and they're like asking, hey, is it true that you can blow up temples and shoot car scenes in their town? Seems like the director guy kind of oversold them a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that scene at the end of the episode where they're drinking beer and Yoshino's like so exhausted that she fell asleep with her beer. So I think it's Sane who goes to like take it out of her hand.
She's got a death grip.
She's got like a death grip on this beer. She's still asleep. She won't let go. I thought that was pretty funny. I had some thoughts about this episode and basically this show as we're like, halfway through the season. And this is the point where you look back and see if a show is like really accomplished a lot or not. And so this show is Iyashike show. So it's like sort of like supposed to like relax you. It's set in the countryside and it's like a bunch of cute girls and nothing like real. There's no big conflicts. Like there's small things that usually get resolved very quickly. And like my favorite show in this genre is No No Biori. So I'm always thinking about that show when I'm watching this show. And comparing those two, the biggest difference with No No Biori for me is that the writing is so much more consistently interesting and funny, and I don't know, it's just more heartfelt moments as well. Like I never get like super emotionally moved by an episode of Sakura Quests, or it's like very rare that I do. And I find that to be like something that is a shortcoming of this show. Whereas like, I mean, this episode, like I read online that this was a lot of people's favorite episode of the show so far. And when I finished watching it, I was like, man, that episode was pretty boring. Like not much happened. Like they're all out in this rural area where not much happens, but at the same time, like the little things that they do focus on this episode were just not that interesting to me. It's like the philosophies and like the competing.
I didn't care for this whole movie shooting arc. I
just didn't like this arc at all. Like I think I said that about it last episode too, is like I just didn't understand Maki's like whole like deal about being so upset. And then yeah, I mean I liked that Shiori was super upset too. Like she screamed at Yoshi in this episode about like the only reason that you want to burn this house is that you're someone who abandoned their town. And it's like, man, these girls are like super mean to each other. And then they make up in the end, but man, they get like really bitchy, and it's like, oh god. I don't know. I just think that this show is it's definitely not on the level of quality of other PA work shows that I love, like Hanasaku Iroha or Shirobako, which are both very similar to this show, but in both of them, I think they had much more consistent good writing and more fun characters. Maybe the show will find its way, though. I mean, we're still very early. It's a 25 episode show. Like, it could easily get much better, but I don't know. At this point, I'm like, I would say it's one of the shows on our list that I'm on the edge of wanting to drop, but very unsure about it. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way, but I'm also don't think there's anything left that I think is better.
Yeah, that's my thing too. Like KADO, The Right Answer is a good show, but is it
KADO and
better?
Like Suka or like I would rank them all pretty even. They're just different genres.
Yeah, exactly. They're just different types of show. It's like I don't know if I enjoy one more than the other consistently. So, well, while we think about that, why don't we move on to the next show?
Yay! Puso Shoujo Machiavellianism. I had a lot of fun doing this synopsis, dude.
Oh boy.
Did you have a lot of fun watching it?
Yes, actually, I thought this episode was actually pretty funny throughout. So yeah.
Okay. So we go right back to where we left off with Nomura in the girls' bath changing room and a naked Tamaba. Get used to the naked Tamaba.
Naked Tamaba is naked the entire fucking episode.
The entire episode.
But
the show knows.
Let me just say one thing. So Naked Tamaba has 2 strands of hair that are just permanently glued to her boobs, like over the nipples. The entire, no matter what she does, like no matter how like crazy she flails around, those 2 strands of hair are just glued there.
Or the hair will just shift into a different way to cover it. Yes, it's pretty good. So the show knows that fan service is a thing and gives us like a cleavage shot because that's where the pouch with the USB stick is hanging. We also find out like Mr. Big Head was in on the whole thing. So that was interesting. They don't talk much more about that. They do a quick flashback of the picture taking when Nomura started waking up. Tamaba put another roofie in her mouth and force kissed it down his throat.
This show is really dark at times.
Dude, I'm like that's so they're roofing him.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a messed up way to do it too. So now we jump to like Mary, because we had to have Mary in this episode at least once. Downing glasses of wine, and her ever so faithful little sister Choka is there, and she keeps refilling it. Mary is going on about all men need to be reformed, like to be able to live with women. Choka says something about he was probably just after your body, which causes her to remember that he is not after her body because she turned him down, and it just makes her angrier, and she demands more of her non-alcoholic wine that Choka decides to state. We immediately go to the same scene with Rin and Nono. But instead, Rin is drinking what you assume is sake. This is how she's drinking it. And she's all in the fuss, too, about Nomaru. But then Nono also points out that this is just barley tea. Why are you acting like this? Oh, man. And just let you know, this show just goes from scene to scene to scene to scene. Super quick. And then we immediately get this really quick scene, a big head in Nomura's room, and he finds Nomura's stamp card on the floor. And then we just immediately jump back to Nomura and this sexy naked side shot of Tamaba it gives us. Nothing happens here because we immediately go back to a cleavage shot of Rin putting on her pajamas and wondering why she feels the way she feels about Nomaru. Poor Nono's in the background terrified because Rin's like bashing her face into the wall.
She's like headbutting the wall and the wall is like cracking. Like she's headbutting it so hard and like poor Nono is just sitting there like, what the hell's going on?
She's like, what is wrong with you? It's just funny to me. So all right, let's go right back to Nomaru again. They decide to battle, but Nomaru requests that she at least put on some clothes. Tamaba says, what? I can do what I want. Naked butt shot of Tamaba touching her butt.
Well, she was scratching her butt. I thought that was actually kind of funny.
But then they do like the light thing where it's basically blurred out so you can't see her crack. You can just see enough of like a side cheek as she touches her butt or scratches it. But it works on Nomaru and he gets a little boner. And then we also find that he's named his dick Magnum Penis. Mm-hmm. just FYI for you there. Robbie stays in the room. The other two went out to the little onsen area. Robbie and Jason Mask Minion Girl with the poison needles. She stays to fight her. Well, Robbie got stabbed the last episode, so it starts working on her. She starts getting sleepy, but then she like stabs herself in the leg, so the pain will keep her awake. Shoo, 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 shoo.
So it's funny
that's literally how that scene ended with her doing that.
It's funny that you mentioned the shoo, 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 because after the episode was over, I was thinking like, oh, they kind of missed an opportunity for a joke during that scene because she's getting really drowsy from the drugs, and I would be like, oh, it'd been really funny if she was like shoo, 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 shoo. I was waiting for that to happen, but it never did.
So we shoo into Nomaru and Tamaba, and Tamaba has a question, but then she moves like super fast and knocks Nomaru through the window, which surprises him because he thought he was totally ready for her. Tamaba says, which do you like more, getting stabbed or getting slashed? Ominous, whatever. We get a little bit of Tamaba kicking Nomaru's ass, just so we can get rewarded with a full pan shot of her body afterwards. As soon as Nomura thinks he starts to figure out her style, she switches it up on him again. And I'm going to be honest, these fight scenes are nothing to write home about. This battle in particular is just to look at Tamaba's naked and perfectly censored body at the whole time. That's all these scenes are. Yeah. We go back to Robbie. She's getting her ass kicked also in this fight and does another one of the stab to sleepiness ways, like on her hand. I immediately go right back to Nomura. This show is just all over the place. Getting slashed up some more, and Tamaba's like switching techniques again. But turns out Nomura's finally figured out that she uses a school of swordplay that borrows from 10 other schools. For guessing correctly, she says she will reward him with Satori's secret little game, which is continuing slashing him, I guess. Tamaba gets a little sloppy at times, and then for some odd reason, Nomura thinks it's because of his naked body. I did not catch how he came to this conclusion. So anyways.
I don't know.
I put it back like an extra 2 minutes and rewatched it, and I was like, how did he come to this conclusion? Like, they don't do a thing where like part of his body flashes and she sees it and suddenly, doesn't do it.
They were doing the thing where like Tamaba was using sword school styles that had similar words in them, like a word chain of like sword school styles, and then like I think she like slashed open a piece of his clothing, but it was just like a really tiny slash, and that's when he noticed her getting distracted, I guess. I don't know. Yeah,
but don't worry guys, this show still has some respect for its female viewers, so they get Nomaru to strip down himself, and it works. It distracts her. So I guess you could say his dick won him the fight because she like there's a scene where it just shows her literally look down on his penis.
Well, like, yeah, he's explaining to her that like she has her power, which is like an all-seeing eye. Yeah. But when he has his dick out, she either
all girls either look at his dick or look away. They can't look anywhere else.
Exactly. So it completely defeats her power.
Yeah, at the same time, Robbie wins her fight and like proceeds to beat the fucking crap out of the girl.
Yeah.
Like she's like, I've won. And then like it just like blacks out and you just hear her beating the shit out of her. So Tsukuyo, who is like the little pink hair girl, is going to the baths herself with her maid at her side when she suddenly opens her eyes for the first time in the show.
She opened her eyes. I was like, oh my God.
What show does this?
This is a game changer.
She's going to be so OP now.
Oh, man.
Yeah, she also says something like, I can hear everything that goes on in here. Back to Robbie, who says, since I'm the winner, you must show me your face. And like she pulls off like her mask and like it looks like the wig comes off with her. And all you see is her shocked face. Mm-hmm. And then cuts back to Nomura gloating. But Tamaba's like dangling the USB drive over the water.
No, so Tamaba's saying like, if I drop this, you'll lose all of your proof. So I've won anyway. And then you can say what happens.
This is, dude, I was fine with the violence in this show because they're like fighting in matches. But then like Nomura's answer to the situation is to just slap that bitch so hard she flies into the water with the USB drive. She's like, she gets out of the water. She's like, are you an idiot? What was that about? His whole explanation for this is, if I'm getting expelled anyway, might as well do that and leave with no regrets.
To be fair, she was like slashing and cutting him up and she roofied him and like took advantage of him.
The match is over at this point.
I still think he's kind of justified in slapping her across the face for everything
Jesus
she
Christ.
did.
But anyways,
I thought it was pretty funny, actually.
He's mad because she made Rin cry. And then I wrote, achievement unlocked. Tamaba has now been added to your harem.
Yeah, because she starts like blowing bubbles in the water, like a
pouting in the water.
Yeah, like she's clearly in the harem. Yeah. So yeah, I realized something this episode with you know how they like call out like the style of the like whatever sword technique they're using at the time, and it pauses. It pauses for like a full second or two as it like shows you the style. And I realized this serves a couple purposes. Like besides being like a parody of other fighting anime, they bring the animation to a halt. So the animators don't have to fluidly animate any of these movements. Like they can cut them into little parts. And then two, it takes up more time in the episode overall if you throw a bunch of these things in. So it's just that much more stuff that they don't have to animate in the show. So I was thinking about it kind of cynically in that way. Cause
not like it's the greatest animation in the world, but
no. And then, yeah. So then I was thinking like, okay, so basically every girl has joined the harem, I guess, except for Tsukuyo, who is the pink-haired loli who hears everything but only opened her eyes this episode.
Like, so, and they make it look like she opened her eyes when she found out that Tamaba lost. Yes.
So it's clearly her turn next. But then I was thinking, like, after she's done and she's in the harem, which she will be, I assume that he's going to get his final stamp unless like Mr. Big Head like takes it away from him or something. And,
well, he still needs a stamp from Pink Haired Girl, so
yeah, I assume he'll get one from her and then add her to the harem. And then I guess like what's the final arc of the show going to be about? Like him going out to the town and then having to decide which girl.
Oh, there's still another girl.
Oh, there's another girl? Oh, there is
the black haired girl.
That's
the one that was dressed up in guy's clothes and beat him before.
I just feel like the show is going to end with like all of the girls wanting him to take them on a date since he now has like the privilege to go off campus.
Yes, and then the final shot of the series will be him doing something wrong and the girls chasing him trying to beat him up.
That is 100% going to happen, yes. So yeah, we know where the show is going.
Why do you think Robbie was so surprised when she took that mask off? Who do you think was underneath it?
Oh, you think it's like somebody we've seen before? I don't know.
Or what would make her... I have two. I think my first one I want to go with is Tamaba has a twin.
It could be. Or she could have like a disfeatured face or something. It could be something like that too.
Or it was a boy underneath.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
But that may be too smart for this show. We don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, I actually kind of like glossed over that. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, she has like this huge shocked look.
Yeah.
Like this is like supposed to be important in some way.
It's kind of crazy how Warabi kept like cutting herself so she wouldn't fall asleep from the drugs. That was kind of intense.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
How about the next show?
Yeah, let's get to my big synopsis of Tsuki ga Kirei, episode 6.5, the first half, The Road So Far, which was a recap episode. So yeah, this was just a complete recap show. It was just clips from the previous episode all sewn together.
Can I read my note?
Yeah, well, let me finish and I'll let you read it. They did nothing interesting with this recap episode. Like sometimes recap episodes will be told from a different point of view or something slight, some slight spin on it, or like some narrator like weaving a thread all the way through it. There was
or
nothing
how Allison
like that.
Zoroku did it.
Yeah, Allison Zoroku had like a live action seiyus talking about it. I mean, maybe they planned that in advance like we thought about. But with Tsuki ga Kirei, it was just a straight recap of scenes you've already seen all the way up to the end, and I thought that was kind of boring and a little disappointing. What did you think, Leo?
I wrote, I'm not watching this. I can't relive this show a second time for my sanity. So let's move on to Fridays.
I'm so excited for next week's episode of Tsuki ga Kirei. So Fridays, let's move on. We've got Rage of Bahamut, Virgin Soul. And we had episode 7, which is called The Day of Victory. So this episode starts with Azazel surrounded by Cherios' private guard who are looking around, and he's looking around. He's seen all of the demons are like slaughtered in this square all around him. And then 2 of the guards charge at him, and a glowing yellow aura appears, and it like something Muguro would do, and it cuts. And then at that point, we flash back to 5 hours earlier. So Kaiser is barging into Cherios' bedchamber as he's being dressed by his servants that morning. And he warns him, you can't attend the parade because the demons are scheming something. And Cherios tells him that today is the anniversary of the day that Cocytus, the demon capital, fell. And he says we should celebrate by taking the rag demon's head once and for all. So back out in the town, we see hooded demons are making preparations all along the parade route. One of them uses magic on the stones on the inside of an overpass, presumably to make it explode later and collapse on top of people. And other demons are readying their weapons like spears and crossbows and signaling each other to let each other know that they're all ready. And the town is pretty quiet except for some fireworks that are blasting off above. And Azazel is up above the town. He's on top of a tower, and he's got this bird's eye view of everything going on. Meanwhile, Rita and Nina are down by their stand, and they're selling omelets, which Rita is making. So Nina is saying that they're zombie omelets. And the crowd is like, ugh, zombie omelets? That sounds pretty bad. And she's like, no, it's just because they're a 200-year-old recipe from a delicious recipe from 200 years ago. And Rita's like, yeah. They're surprisingly a big hit once people realize that they're not disgusting. And Nina's like serving them up, but then she sees a guy with a head towel walk by in the crowd, and she's instantly reminded of Chris or Cherios. And so she kind of gets distracted. Hamza and Rita are teasing Nina about it, and Hamza's like, I wonder if she took a step closer to adulthood last night. And Rita reminisces about sometime way long ago in her past when she took a step towards adulthood, but clearly she's been trapped in her child body for many years. So Bacchus is by the carriage with Muguro, and he's asking him or her about his like powers, and telling Muguro that they have a resemblance to someone. Clearly, she's talking about Michael, the angel. Mm-hmm. And then Lady Sophiel, the head angel.
I would like to say the shot that they give of her is gorgeous because she has giant bazungas.
Oh, Sophiel? Yeah, she's gorgeous. Yeah. She's talking to Bacchus, and she notices Muguro and asks who it is. And Bacchus somehow is able to nervously cover and claim it's just some random demon brat that he picked up off the street. And he's like really relieved when Souryo leaves. But then Hamza appears on top of the carriage and asks Bacchus, why didn't he just tell her the truth? If he told her that it's like the child she's looking for, they could both go back to heaven. But Bacchus tells Hamza that he just has a really bad feeling about it and doesn't want to tell her. So at this point, various factions are sort of starting to move. Souryo like meets with her two other angel like servants or like helpers or whatever, and sends them off to do something. We don't really see what. Kaiser makes his way back through the parade route. He's frantically looking for any sign of the demons. And then the demons are still just getting ready and keeping track of everything. Kaiser finds Alisan and the other dude from the Orion's Knights and tells them that the demons are scheming, that they have to find them and stop them before the parade. And meanwhile, Nina and Muguro have made their way over to the parade, and they're eating some of their zombie omelets, but they can't see over the people in front of them. So Azazel, again, is up above everyone. He's trying to spot Nina from up on his perch, but he can't see her, and he's starting to get worried because the parade is just now starting. But fortunately for him, Nina and Muguro get up on the shoulders of some nice guys in the crowd to finally get a good view.
I think one of them was a merchant she's talked to before.
I think probably, yeah.
I think that's what it was.
So Nina's up there for like a hot second before she is stealthily pulled away off the guy's shoulders by Azazel, and then he carries her like and flies away to like a safe place and says, "Why didn't you meet up with me on time?" And she's like, "Well, I wanted to see the parade," and blah blah blah. And then Nina, like Muguro finds them, and Azazel is like stunned by Muguro's appearance, like because she's dressed all up like a girl.
Which anyway, they still haven't said is this a girl or a boy yet.
Yeah, they still haven't made that clear. The demons signal each other that it's finally time, and they set off multiple explosions along the parade route on like bridges and overpasses and roads, and it cuts off Azazel and his whole parade from getting out or getting back to the palace. So they're going to have to stand their ground and fight. So Azazel hugs Nina because he's like, we need the dragon. We need it right now. But like we sort of predicted last episode, Nina, having fallen in love with Chris, is not affected by Azazel's hugs anymore.
I can't believe this. Not after all the stuff and little things that would turn her on.
Yeah.
This is so unbelievable. Just because you're in love with somebody doesn't mean somebody else doesn't give you a boner.
That's definitely true. But Nina is even like, so Azazel's like panicking and he's like, I need to do something. So he goes to like, oh, fine. He goes like, I'll kiss her. So he goes in for a kiss, but Nina, like before he can kiss her, like throws him back against a brick wall.
Well, I'm just saying this show has just shoved down our throats how horny she is. And then now just conveniently she's not.
Yeah, I mean, she explains that my heart isn't racing at all for whatever reason. And then she's like blabbering on in the background with Muguro. Yeah. And she's like, maybe it's because I have true love. It's really stupid. And Azazel's like, holy shit.
I just really dislike that scene. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
I thought it was pretty dumb. But we also kind of predicted it last episode. So I'm kind of happy for us.
Yeah. And yay for Sexy Demon Babe is back.
Oh, yeah. So, Azazel starts to panic. He realizes he needs to get to the square and call off the attack if he can. And Muguro is looking on as his reaction and realizes that something is really wrong, even though Nina is just doing her stupid "I'm in love" thing in front of him. So, Cheria spots a group of 3 demon rebels who are kind of hiding in the shadows of the square as they're trying to determine if they should launch the attack. They're just waiting for the red dragon. But Cheria says, hey, those are demon rebels, cut off their heads. And just as the soldiers are starting to approach them, a bunch of demon crossbowmen start to fire on the square. And their crossbows fire through these like floating purple magical runes that are in midair. Which
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. Like the crossbow bolts, like once they go through that rune, get this like purple energy around them. So they're firing like energy bolts, basically.
Yeah, and the knights people have like a yellow thing. So it's like a lightning bolt almost like type thing.
Fire bolt or almost,
I thought that was a neat idea.
That was really cool, yeah. And yeah, one of the demons is that sexy demon chick. And
I want to say her outfit. What? That's just one heck of an outfit to bring to a battle.
Hey, she knows how to dress. She knows the rule of RPG armor for women.
Yeah.
Wear as little as possible.
She's got it down.
So, just as the sexy demon chick is about to be killed by Charios' personal guard, Azazel arrives. And he takes out 3 of them and then is faced off with Charios. And Charios is like, okay, it's time to end this thing once and for all. And we see like a single bead of sweat run down Azazel's face. And that's where it goes to the end credits. But after the credits, we see Azazel and the 2 other head demons surrounded by Charios' guard. And Azazel says he'll draw their fire because he wants the other 2 to live. So he like bolts off in one direction, and the demon chick and the guy Dante run in other directions. They scatter. And Charios is like, don't let any one of them live. And Dante gets pierced, like brought down by a flurry of arrows, and he's instantly killed. And then the sexy demon chick is looking on, and she's like, oh no. And then this giant Titan arm punch just flattens her into the ground.
Dude, I was like, no!
I know, I was so upset.
Sexy demon girl! Dude, they even made the sound effects of like that.
Oh, yeah.
Like bones crunching and stuff. And I'm like, but they did do that thing where like they didn't actually show her outright dead.
True. This is definitely
the
true.
other guy, Dante, I think it was called. Yeah, he was dead.
Yeah, he had like 47 arrows in his chest.
Yeah, and like his skin had rotted away and his skeleton was there.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's dead. Sexy demon girl. I don't know. Maybe she just loses an arm or something. Because they just show it hitting her, and then when it lifts up, you just see like kind of the top of her head in the crater.
Yeah.
So it's just doing that thing. She may not be. I don't know how she would survive this, but.
Yeah, from the very first scene of this episode, it looks like Azazel is going to be surrounded, but then is probably going to be saved by Muguro. But we'll see what happens after that, because I think those angels are looking for Muguro. Charios is obviously looking for Muguro.
Well, you see the bright light thing. Just
yeah,
at the end.
You see the bright light, so something's going to happen, but we'll have to wait and see till next week what comes of that. So why don't we move on to the next episode?
All right. Recreators, episode 6. You are the one who knows where justice lies. Man, there's a lot of talking in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, at one point, no, at 2 points in here, I make a joke because, like, for a minute, I'm like, am I watching a different show on accident?
I was saying, like, man, I feel like I'm watching Fate Zero, because that show had, like, these long monologues of, like, exposition.
Well, I use Monogatari, so.
Oh, yeah, it's a similar type of thing, yeah.
Oh, man, could you imagine doing a review for Monogatari? How would you do that?
A lot of people do that. Like, I've seen lots of essays, and like I know on Anime News Network, I think it was Nick Creamer who was doing episodic reviews of the Monogatari series, and let's just say it's a lot of work to review a Monogatari show.
I was going to say, I could see how you could easily discuss the ideas they do, but I don't see how you could do it without just basically rewriting the script.
There's like every scene in Monogatari is filled with symbolism. You could spend so much time talking about it.
All right, let's talk about this show. We get sidetracked easily. So we have this is like the end of the last episode. Soda is standing there freaking out about finally recognizing where the military princess is from when Silesia shows up on his balcony to discuss about the current things that are going on. I don't know why he's withholding this newly acquired information from her.
Me neither. I guess he's just kind of scared about what it means, and he doesn't fully understand it yet.
Yeah, maybe he wants to do some more research on his own. I don't know. It sounds like he already knows basically probably everything is about it because he was involved with this. I guess the original content creator?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But anyways, we also find out Silesia has gotten a cell phone and like she loves it. It's her new little thing. She's the coolest thing ever. Now we get introduced to our new character that has very slanted eyes and pointy teeth. She's got purple hair and a big old braid. She's clearly a bad character. This is the second show to be like, this is a bad guy. Yep. Got it. What's that thing they keep doing shots of her what's it called?
Wait, who? Which character? Sorry.
The slanted eyes, pointy teeth.
Well, her
you
like shark teeth or whatever. Yeah,
that's what you call them.
Yeah.
They keep doing shots of what's it called? It's something Japanese.
Like her skirt. Oh, like Zetai Ryoiki.
Yeah.
Like, her absolute territory thighs. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty fan servicey.
All right. Then after the opening, we have like Alice and Mamika sitting around a fire discussing how their worlds compare to the one they're in now. It also seems they've been sent to this park to find the new person that just came into their world. It's obviously Pointy Teeth. Mamika hopes it's a good person, but we all know that's not true. We go, and to prove my point, we go back to Pointy Teeth girl who's in a bookstore. And she starts to walk out with her books she was looking at when the shopkeeper's like, hey, miss, can you please pay for them? And she responds with, but they're my books. And he's like, what kind of shoplifter are you? And then like, I don't quite, her spell, there's certain requirements for her spells to work. Like there has to be a lie within a lie.
Something like that, yeah.
That's what the show says. I didn't look too much into it. I figured I just hurt my brain trying to figure it out. But through her overly elaborate way, she casts a spell that like summons this Stan type character that like shreds the shopkeeper and just gets blood everywhere. This scene was discovered immediately by the police, and they're there investigating the whole thing with Meteora. They determined very quickly it must be a villain character. Yeah, you think? Meteora goes outside of the bookstore and Sleazy is outside waiting for her, and they're talking a little bit about Sota. And this is pretty funny as Ruri is trying to pick up girls saying he has a giant robot.
Yeah, I was laughing my ass off at that part. It's like Shinji going around saying like, I have an angel, girls.
Mm-hmm. So we go right back to the Pointy Teeth girl who's walking around and runs into Alice and Mamiko. Mamiko starts off by trying to convince her to help them, but she just says, I'm a normal schoolgirl, which is funny. She like, plays it off. I do like Pointy Teeth's character. I think it's kind of unique. I don't think you like her very much, though, do you?
Yeah, she's kind of just one of those characters that, like, yeah, her whole ability is based on her, like, talking for a really long time until, like, she can use her ability.
Get them in a lie within a lie.
And I typically just don't like shark tooth designs of characters. That's just, yeah. It just
I don't like her design, but I like how I like her attitude they gave her.
Yeah, I guess
that's what I really like.
It's something the show probably needed for the villain characters. So yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So it's Mamiko, right? Why did I change it to Momiko? Mamiko keeps trying to convince her by explaining like the whole situation they're in. When she mentions it's the world of gods, it seems to have perked Pointy Teeth's interest a little bit. And Alice, having half a brain, realizes this isn't working and that she will most likely become an enemy to them. Pointy Teeth is trying to trick her into her overcomplicated spell when Mamiko interrupts it. My note says, Jesus, they're talking a lot.
It's true.
Did I actually start to watch Monogatari? So anyways, Pointy manages to make her spell work, and all Alice has to do is stab her when like Silesia and Meteora show up out of nowhere and stop her from stabbing her. Because if she would have like stabbed Pointy Teeth in the chest, instead I assume that Alice would have been stabbed in the chest, is how I was led to believe. Then Mamiko is trying to stop everybody from fighting, and Meteora agrees, but as long as the military princess continues to trick them into working for her, they will have to do what they can to stop them. Meteora also explains that it isn't as easy as the military princess says to change the world. And this one went, did I go back to Monogatari again? Blah, 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 blah. During this way too long conversation, Pointy Teeth has like slowly been backing away from everybody. Alice finally flips and hits Silesia and Meteora with like this huge magic attack from her gauntlet that knocks him like through a couple of bridges and stuff. Silesia, whatever.
Yeah,
I keep hearing sleaze. So Silesia and Alice start trading blows when like chain smoking guy shows up and explains to Mamiko that talking through things only works when both sides are willing. That's so freaking true. Yeah, he also asked Mamiko why she doesn't use her power that could probably end this fight right away. She says she can't use such a dangerous thing. Alice and Silesia still trading blows again when Silesia gets knocked down and shot at, but Meteora gets a shield up in time to save her. The shot came from Chain Smoking Guy, who can fly because he clicked his watch and he flew off. It totally made me think of Cowboy Bebop with the episode with it's got the French title and there's the guy flying around in like the suit and stuff, and he's like shooting stuff from his cane, and they're in the amusement park. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He has like the mind of a child. Mm-hmm. That's what just the way he flew just made me think of that. Huh. But anyways, he introduces himself as a Blitz Talker. The names this season are just everywhere. You got Cthulhu, and then you get Zero, and somebody's who's literally named after their job, Mercenary, and then we get Blitz Talker over here.
At least like it makes sense that like this anime is a little bit self-aware, and it's like, yeah, that's like a total light novel name or like a video game name.
So Meteora won't use any of her spells that like summon the equipment stuff because the Japanese government literally has to pay for it. So she, as she's holding up her shield, calls the lady person to see if she can use it. And this whole time, like, Blitz is like shooting at her, but it's just bouncing off her shield. And that's when he decides to use like this special bullet that does something with gravity. It blows right through her shield, knocks her like 200 yards into a concrete wall, and knocks her unconscious. Blitz decides to load another bullet and fires at her, but Mamiko steps in and saves Meteora with her own power. I also like to note that Pointy Teeth is just like watching this whole battle like she's at the movies. She needs like her own bag of popcorn to be complete. But that was the end of the episode.
Yeah, so there's a lot of talking, which could get a little bit repetitive and boring at times. But at least I feel like this episode was kind of saved by the battle at the end. And it's kind of hinting at what could come in the future when you have like all these different fictional characters like fighting against each other at the same time.
And some way more powerful and underpowerful than other ones.
Yeah, and they all have like unique styles and stuff. So that was fun. And also the music was pretty hype when they're fighting on that bridge. It was like typical Hiroyuki Sawano music, just like blasting over the fight, which I liked. I think that Mamika, the magical girl, is kind of my favorite character.
Really?
Yeah, because I just feel like her whole thing is the most interesting because she comes from this fictional world where everything is like goes right for her and it's all like PG, and then like
whenever she fights, people don't die and things don't get exploded.
Yeah, she's so naive, and then like she's trying to deal with coming into this world where everything is so much more complicated and everything hurts people, and trying to figure it all out. And I kind of like watching that happen.
Yeah, her little situation's pretty cool. I'm probably just gonna go with Pointy Teeth because like I said, I like her attitude.
Yeah, I think she's going to be a fun character. I think like she might hook up with the military princess at first, but then I could easily see her betraying the military princess as well.
Yeah, or trying to manipulate her in her own way. Yeah, I totally see that.
Yeah. Nobody should trust her for sure.
Oh, yeah. All right, you want to move on?
Sure. So, next show is My Hero Academia Season 2. And we have episode 20 this week, Victory or Defeat. So, Hitoshi Shinso, who is from the General Studies course, is facing off against Deku at the beginning of this 16-person tournament, which makes up the last event of the sports festival. So, right, Shinso has sort of frozen Deku in his tracks with his mysterious quirk.
I have a problem with this, and I see your thing, but he was immobile until he told him to move, and that was one of the requirements for winning.
You know, that's a good point.
If he was immobilized, and he was frozen solid until he told him to walk out of the arena. The announcer should have asked if you're immobile, and if he couldn't even answer, that's even more of a yes. And then the show immediately has the second match go that route, and I'm just like, what? Deku should have lost immediately.
You're right. I didn't think about that initial part where before he starts moving, he's just completely unable to move. You're right. He totally should have lost the match right there.
Yeah, he that's the literal definition of being immobilized.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I was wrong. I was thinking that like, oh yeah, Deku was totally walking at least, so he's moving, but that was after Shinso commanded him to walk.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's get into that. So Aizawa is in the announcer's booth and he's explaining a bit about Shinso's backstory, saying he failed the hero entrance exam because his quirk was not a good fit for fighting the foe villains in that entrance exam. But people...
Because they were machines.
Yeah,
he wouldn't
exactly.
be able to do
so
anything.
He couldn't control them. He had nothing to do there. So, like, people with amazing physical attack quirks stood out, like Bakugo or Deku and the others. So yeah, Shinso tells Deku in his hypnotized state to turn around and walk out of bounds. So you're totally right. Up until that point, he was completely immobile and couldn't do anything.
Like he would have had to have broken his fingers right there when they asked him.
Yeah, and he wouldn't have been able to look towards the tunnel, as we're going to get to that part either. So, so Deku starts to walk. He turns around and starts walking, and we learn that Shinso's quirk is called brainwashing. So
you know what? I'm thinking there's no reason they couldn't have had a tunnel behind Shinso, and he just saw it over his shoulder.
That's true. Yeah.
All right, I'm nitpicking at this, but just sorry.
No, but it's a really good point. You're right. It is definitely a flaw.
The show broke its own rule. But okay, go ahead.
So yeah, Shinso's quirk is called brainwashing. So if you answer any of his questions, it turns on a brainwashing switch inside your brain. Only if he wills it to do so. Like he has to want to turn the switch on for this quirk to work. Otherwise, like he would just be talking to people in real life and constantly brainwashing them, and that wouldn't be nice. So
that would be a nightmare for him and everybody else.
Yeah. So we hear Deku's like inner monologue. He's battling against his body, which is moving on its own. And then we flash back to Ojiro before the match, who warned Deku exactly how this quirk worked, telling him just not to answer the question. And Ojiro tells Deku that he bumped into someone and it snapped him out of it during cavalry battle. So Deku might need like a shock to his system to penetrate the brainwashing. But yeah, so it's kind of annoying also that Deku was warned explicitly not to answer the question, yet he still did.
Such a stupid move on his part.
Such a shonen move on his part.
Oh yeah, shonen move for sure.
So as Deku is approaching the boundary of like the field, he thinks about the people who are relying on him, and he looks into the tunnel that like All Might is like sort of peeking out of there. And he sees a group of like yellow eyes looking back at him from the darkness. And his All for One power starts to ignite, seemingly like on its own. And just in the two fingers on his left hand, which explode with power and snaps him out of the brainwashing.
It kind of like snaps his fingers, because when he was being explained earlier how he was shocked out of, the other guy was shocked out of his brainwashing by bumping into the other people, and they weren't sure how much of a shock you needed. So like, yeah, him like, I feel like he broke both his fingers. Basically, and that's what allowed him to snap out of that. So, so Shinso's basically lost now. Because like unless he can get Deku to talk again, he tries everything he can, but Deku just keeps like running towards Shinso and like starts pushing him out of bounds basically. And Shinso tries. This whole thing's pretty cool.
Yeah. Shinso like tries to like wrestle him and reverse their momentum, but they're getting close to the boundary line. And like Shinso's again, like he's still just trying to like get a rise out of Deku, get him to like respond to anything. You hear Deku's inner monologue, like inside his head, he's answering Shinso's questions, like shut up. And then as Shinso tries to reverse the momentum, Deku picks him up by the arm and basically shoulder throws him and body slams him over the boundary line, which wins the match and moves him on to round 2. We get a flashback to 3 years prior at Naboo City Middle School, which I thought was funny because of Star Wars. And
anyways,
where some friends ask Shinso about his brainwashing quirk, and he kind of remarks that everyone always assumes that he would use it for criminal reasons and that he would become a villain. So Deku, back in the present, asks Shinso why he wants to become a hero. And Shinso tells him that you can't help the things that you long for. And Deku kind of identifies this from the time when he was quirkless and he couldn't become a hero, but he couldn't help wanting to be one. So Shinzo walks towards the stands, and he has some friends up there that are yelling down, and they're like, "You were amazing! Like, you put up such a great fight against like the number one."
I rolled my eyes.
Yeah,
so
this
hard.
was pretty cheesy part. Then some like pro heroes in the stands think that UA is stupid for keeping him in the general studies program because his quirk is so impressive. And Shinzo gets pumped up, and he says he'll make it to the hero course eventually and get certified. And when he does, he's going to become a better hero than anybody else. Deku responds like, "Yeah, you will." And then Shinzo takes that brief moment to brainwash Deku again and then warn him basically that like he needs to stay on guard. And then and then,
I think Deko's like, "Yeah, you're right," and like
he
does
brainwashes him a third time. He's like, so he's getting a little bit of revenge there, but it was kind of cute. Deku goes and gets patched up by Recovery Girl in like the medical office, and All Might tells Deku that he also saw the vision of the previous users of One for All in his youth. So he believes that Deku's like strong emotions upon seeing that vision helped him move his fingertips for just a second and break the brainwashing.
I want to say it's kind of setting up the All Might quirk to, it's kind of setting up to be in its own way being the most powerful, even if it's like a mind control technique that the other guy used, that even that power can overpower somebody else's.
Yeah, definitely. It's like you have this whole like system of people backing you up who were the prior generations of people who used All for One.
Yeah, or this endless amount of power that will allow you to overpower any other quirk.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, what is it? So Deku runs out of the office to go find out who his opponent is in round 2. And then at that point, like Recovery Girl mentions to All Might that Deku saw someone who looked like All Might in the vision with the former users. And All Might is kind of like nervous about that. And he says, well, I guess that's a good thing though. So I think it's saying that All Might his days are almost done here.
Yeah, it's kind of like a foreshadowing of his death or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and it's also just, his powers have been declining and Todoroki's have been, becoming more powerful. So it's just another sign of his decline until his eventual death, I guess.
Yeah. So Todoroki's walking out from the waiting room for his first match, and he passes by his father, Endeavor, who tells him to stop being stubborn and use his flame powers once and for all. And Todoroki again refuses, saying he'll only use his mother's power. And Endeavor warns him he's going to reach the limits of those powers pretty soon. So Todoroki's really pissed off for this match. So Deku returns back to his seats and kind of like waves at Ojiro, thanking him for helping him out. And they're all getting ready to watch Todoroki's match against Hanta Siro, who's the tape guy. And so Ojiro gives, as I said that already. So Siro attacks Todoroki really quickly at the beginning of the match. He binds him in tape and he tries to force him out of bounds. But Todoroki ain't got time for that bullshit.
Yeah, basically.
He launches this ridiculous ice attack, which forms a humongous shard of ice that goes so high into the sky that it disappears like out of the stadium. And there's like people standing outside of the stadium who can look up like right next to the stadium and see the ice poking over the roof.
Yeah, like it goes up and over the stands and sticks all the way out. And like it's just funny to hear Endeavor say, you'll come to your limit soon, and then you're like, if that's the limit, he's still got a ways to go. Jesus.
Yeah, this is definitely a statement that he's making, and like the referee Midnight is like half frozen herself from this, and she asks Zero, hey, are you immobilized? She asked him, are you able to move? And he's like, of course not. So since he's immobilized, like Deku was, he loses the match.
It just killed me that then the show then like reinforced this.
This is true.
This idea that immobilizing makes you lose a match. And I was just like, you broke your rule already.
Yeah. So Endeavor, he sees this crazy power from his son, and even he raises an eyebrow at like the power his son is able to wield. He didn't think that the ice powers could be that strong.
Yeah, not to mention it makes you think what would actually happen if you used both of them together. Jesus, that's a lot of power.
Yeah, and there's like kind of
assuming that his flame power is of equal.
Yeah, and he could be pretty crazy if he ever loses it. So Todoroki goes and he like thaws out Sero with his other arm and apologizes to him for going over the top. And then the audience like is trying to cheer up Sero because they're like stunned by this amazing power, and they're just yelling out like don't mind to him, but like they're pretty horrified. And then Deku is like thinking to himself just before the episode ends that Todoroki looks like he's really sad for some reason. So that was I guess the main point I took away from this episode in our review is that it really did break its own rule.
It did.
But yeah, it was an interesting episode. I can't wait to see more of these. I mean, it's a tournament arc. I'm excited. Yeah. So
I will say though, I did not catch that when I read the manga.
Yeah, but I don't know. I have to go back and see if it was there.
But then watching it and going over the same material for the second time, I immediately picked up on it.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I was
just like, wait a minute.
Let's move on to that other show.
Oh, Attack on Titan Season 2. I really have a lot of fun doing the synopsis for this show.
It's great.
At least here lately. I think we're going to go back to a lot of talking, it looks like, by the previews for the next episode.
I'll just say before Leo gets into his synopsis, my brief synopsis of this episode is, if you like seeing Eren get punched in his stupid face, boy, is this episode for you.
I actually comment a little bit about that too, because I thought it was obvious. I was like, Jesus. So we begin with a quick flashback sequence of everybody hiking through the hills when Reiner's like says he wants to return to the hometown that he lost, and then Bernhold asks Eren why he joined, and he says because he wants to kill them all, referring to the Titans. Jump right back to present day with Eren yelling traitor, which is kind of the last episode, and then transforming into his Titan form.
Oh, let me just say this is episode 32 called Close Combat. We didn't mention that.
Oh, oops. I was just so excited to get into it, man.
I know. Me too.
I really like the use of the CG that they use here with the Colossal Titan.
Looked great.
Yeah, it looks great. I think it works because it makes him look like a little bit otherworldly and a little bit scarier in its own way. I just like it for things like that than when they want to use CG.
Mm-hmm.
So the Colossal Titan like takes his arm and makes this huge, big sweep, and it's like it just causes everybody to scatter and get back. But in the process, he's managed to grab Ymir and one other person who they literally refer to as one other person. He then throws both of them in his mouth like he's got some bad breath and eats a Tic Tac. And the way he chomps down doesn't look like he chomped down with his teeth. Like he threw them back onto his tongue and then just closed his mouth. Is how that totally plays out.
Yeah.
This causes Zoe to issue the command for all scouts to swarm the Colossal Titan. But because he's so big, he is slower than the other Titans. And like the scouts get his backside really easily. Some of the scouts are even talking like, oh my God, he's so much slower than the other Titans. You're like, this is going to be a piece of cake. But when they all get around to the backside and are coming in to get at the neck, he releases this huge amount of steam that just blows everybody away. And it's like forcing Zoe to tell everybody to fall back. But he is apparently able to hold this form for a while. So he's just sitting there blowing off all this heat, all this steam. Can't even get close to him now. So Zoe decides to split up her forces so some of them can go help attack the Armor Titan with Eren, who's down on the ground battling him. She orders the rest to wait until the Colossal Titan stops steaming, because he has to stop at some point. She also says they're no longer going to capture them, kill them instead. Connie also seems to be unaware of who these Titans are.
Yeah, he was so confused. Like, everything's happening so fast that Connie's like, oh yeah, Reiner and Berthold, where are they?
Oh, he tells like this other scout soldier that like, oh, they don't have their gear. You have to go save them. And she's like looking at him like,
Connie's a little slow on the uptake.
Yeah, I was like, he's been left out of the loop. It's not his fault.
Yeah.
So we go to the next scene. This is where it gets great. Next scene of Eren getting punched in his big old stupid face and flying a couple hundred yards through the air. It seems that the 1 pound punch has basically already taken Eren out of the fight already. He's laying on the ground. He's like, literally says he can't move his body. But good old Mikasa is already there and tries to slice the back of his neck, but it's the armor titan. He has armor over that spot, and it breaks her blades. Mikasa also recalls Eren like getting in a couple of punches before he got one punched out of the way, and like he's just punching him, and like he wears his hands down to nubs. Mikasa yelling at Eren kind of like rouses him up a little bit, and through his sheer anger manages to stand up and like regenerate his hands. And I didn't know why, but Mikasa like riding on the armor shoulders titan and just like hacking away at his shoulder with like broken blades was really funny to me.
Oh, was it funny to you? I was just like, oh man, she's so desperate. Like,
yeah, she's just sitting on his shoulder and she's like,
she's trying so hard. She's such a badass. God, I love her so much.
Oh, God. If they ever make her into a titan somehow, she's going to be absolutely unstoppable.
That would be OP, yeah.
She's unstoppable as a human, they basically made her out to be. But, but then, yeah, Eren's getting back up again, and Mikasa realizes she needs to get the heck out of there, and like uses her gear to get off his shoulder. And there's this huge buildup of Eren being angry, and he throws his punch just to be one punch right away. Was just like really satisfying to me.
It was like a punch that broke the sound barrier. It was so hard from Reiner.
And there, like I said, there was this huge buildup of Eren being angry and be like, "I'll get you back," and then just like it just immediately ended.
It was so good.
If you can't tell, I don't like Eren's character that much. So we immediately go to this flashback scene of Annie teaching Eren how to do throws and holds using your opponent's own power and a weight against them. Annie choking Eren out is pretty great. And Mikasa like walks up and wants to learn this move also. So we have her and Annie squaring off, and everybody's like running in. They're like, oh man, how's this going to go down? These are like our two most battle prolific people, which is interesting because this show basically just said our two best physically capable fighters are two women, which is kind of neat.
That's one thing I like about this show for sure.
Yes. But then they didn't show how the match went. Maybe just yet. I don't know.
I think we'll find out at some point. Yeah.
We go back to the present again with Armin hanging from the wall telling Eren he won't win in a slugfest. I hated this. The whole point of this flashback was to tell us that Eren is not going to get to a slugfest, and he's going to try holds and using his opponent's weight and power against him.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
To then the show flat out tell us is bad writing.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, I guess Eren needed to be, even though he remembered, I guess he needed to be reminded and calmed down. But you're right. I feel like
he was already aware.
Yeah.
And the show literally had Armin say that so that if you didn't get it, you should have gotten it. I just hate it when shows do this.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. You're right.
You're supposed to show me, not tell me. Mm-hmm. I want to say I believe I take that quote from Cram from Popcorn Poops, and he's totally right. And a pretty good like fake out by Eren, which was actually a pretty good fake out because it looks like he's going to go in for a punch again. Gets under him and gets him in a good throw, followed up by like an arm lock. While he's doing this, he says, "You probably shouldn't have taught us how to fight." Yeah, you think? He actually manages to tear the armor titan's arm off from the elbow down, so that was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. After this, Armin tells Eren he needs to get back to the wall, and so Eren and him and everybody gets back to the wall because if they just want to capture Eren. If they capture him and get away, then they lose the battle. At this point, Hans shows up. I don't know, for whatever reason, just out of nowhere, and he's like asking Krista what the situation is. Then we see Zoe like jump down onto Eren's shoulder and tell him they need to think of a way to incapacitate the armor titan long enough for all of them to get away. She suggests breaking one of his legs with the joint lock he just used. And like when he like nods and he's like, like she gushes over it because her character is like, she's totally fascinated by like the titans and stuff, and to like be able to communicate with one, would like totally throw you over the top.
Yeah, she was like so in control of herself, and then like being so close to a titan and to communicate it, like really like It threw her off. I thought that was really cute.
Yeah, it totally threw her off. It was really cool. It's just showing you that this is her character. Yeah. And they just did a good job.
I love her character too. I love pretty much all of the female characters in Attack on Titan. I think they're all really good, like non-tropey people, with maybe the exception of Krista, who's kind of like a little moe girl. But I think even her, there's like a lot more to her backstory.
What about Potato Girl?
Okay, that's a good point, but she loves her potatoes so much.
I like Potato Girl because she's just so like kind of crazy in her own way of always wanting food.
Yeah. And we got that backstory episode of why she's always hungry earlier this season.
So, yeah. And it just brings me back to that scene where she's hacking at the Titan's shoulder and like the axe comes off when she swings back and sticks into the ceiling. She's just like, ah! It's like one of my favorite scenes of this whole series so far, I think. I just laugh so much. But anyways, in a very smart move by Armin, he gives the rest of his blades to Mikasa because that's what you do when somebody is 10 times better than everybody else around you.
Definitely.
The armor titan then breaks into like a dead sprint towards Eren, and like you see the armor pieces on his back calves breaking off. So this is important. He straight up spears Eren, and they both go to the ground, but Eren manages to break free and get some distance again. But since that armor broke away, it allows him to move faster. Zoe picks up on this immediately. I mean, being our expert Titan person, super interested in them, makes sense. She tells Mikasa, which makes sense, tells the best person out there, she should have a good shot at the back of the knee. Like this, everything makes so much sense. It's like, yes, this person would notice this. You would tell this person to do this, so on, so on, so on. The armor titan then again tackles Eren, and he decides, I can't take these on and on, so he kind of takes the blow head on, but it allows him to get in a perfect position to get him in like this neck and body lock. And it's also has the armor titan face down, so the back of his body is exposed. Mikasa immediately takes his chance to attack both of the back of his knees. And you really liked this part, didn't you?
It looked awesome. Like there's a lot of gifs floating around of this sequence where Mikasa like dives down the wall, like spinning and whirling her way down, and then like cuts the back of the Titan's knee and like jets away. It looked really amazing. Like it was like some of the best animation from Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress with Mume, where she's like whirling around with her dual pistols and fighting Cabaneri and stuff. It was like
that. Makes sense. Same director.
Yeah, same director, same studio. I feel like they learned a little bit from Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress about their like what animation works and like how to make it more fluid. And Mikasa just diving down to make this attack look so good.
Yeah, I'll just say this: the director, it's Tetsuro Araki, has one heck of a list.
Oh yeah,
for shows he's done. He did the season 1. He did Cabaneri the Iron Fortress. He did Death Note and Guilty Crown, and whether you liked them or not, were extremely popular shows.
Oh yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to what more he can do. Basically now this necklock has turned into a battle of attrition. Reiner realizes he's not getting anywhere. He starts pushing Eren on the floor because he can still move. He's got his one arm. He's got 2 messed up legs, but he's still got his one arm, and he's pushing Eren to we don't know why. He's just trying to break out. Well, he's actually being smart about it. He's pushing him to a specific spot, which happens to be conveniently located next to the Colossal Titan. He then lets out like this huge yell, which everybody assumes is to attract more Titans. But then after a quick survey, they realize there are no other Titans. Connie is the first to realize it might have been for something else. And then right on cue, the Colossal Titan breaks loose from the wall and falls down towards Eren and the Armored Titan. And we leave with this quick, like 0.80 second shot of him coming down on top of him with his mouth wide open, getting ready to swallow them.
Yeah,
and that's what it cuts out on.
Man, God, that was a action-packed episode. I really liked
crazy.
Like, man, I'm still like dying to know more about Reiner and Bertholdt's like actual reasons for attacking right now and all that stuff, but I'm sure we'll find out eventually.
Yeah, not to mention, we know they're in cahoots with Annie, but yet Yuri was not in cahoots with them. And then what does the Beast Titan have to do with any of this?
Yeah, we got to find that out too.
We don't know who's allied with who. It's totally crazy. And then not to mention, Aaron's dad has been gone for freaking ever. And he seems to have known about this.
Oh, yeah.
He seems to have known that humans can be changed into Titans somehow.
Also, there was a lot of like MMA grappling between Eren and Reiner's Titan forms. And it kind of looked like something that could be out of a Titan hentai. I'm not going to lie. At certain points when they were locked up, I was like, there's a lot of memes going around about that too.
Yeah, but those were like legit moves, so.
Oh, they were. I was just like, oh God, this is out of context. This does not look good. And then so I was wondering, like, is Amir still alive? Like, she's like inside Berthold, I guess.
That's why I was very specific about how he swallowed them.
Yeah.
I don't think they're dead. It also explains why he's falling with his mouth open.
Yes.
Because he can swallow them up and I'm guessing potentially escape.
Yeah, when he was doing that thing where he was letting off the hot steam so nobody could attack him, I was wondering if maybe that's a thing that he does when he's eating humans to create new Titans. Because not only does he swallow Ymir, he swallows another person from the Scout Legion, just some random person. We didn't even see who it was. And I was like,
that would be a weird special ability for him to have, because then he would have like two very unique special abilities.
Yeah, for sure.
And I saw some people talking about that, but I don't know. I don't think that's it. I think it's just a defense mechanism.
Okay, yeah. Is there anything else? Oh, I just wanted to say, like, I loved like all of the sound effects in this episode. Like, they're so on point. Like, from Reiner like punching Eren in the face, that sounded so good. And just like Mikasa as she's like swirling around with her maneuver gear, it all sounded so crisp and everything. Even like in the flashback when Annie is like strangling Eren, you can hear like the squeezing of her leather jacket. That also sounded so good. They're so on point.
And even Eren, like I feel like he may have actually been choking himself when he was recording that.
Yeah, maybe. He was pretty into it. So we've come to the end of our mid-season episode. So now is the time when we want to decide if there are any shows that we want to cut at this point. I would say that our main three candidates, if we were gonna cut something, would probably be Alice and Zoroku, Grimoire of Zero, and
I don't agree with that one.
I know you don't. And then
Sakura
Quest. So the question is, do we want to cut any of these? Like, so as I was talking about earlier in this episode, I am kind of morbidly curious where Alice and Zoroku goes from now. Like, there's so many things that I haven't liked about the show, but it also has maybe one of the most interesting paths ahead of it going forward.
Yeah. And they did exactly what I wanted this show to be, so I can't see myself dropping the show when they suddenly did what I wanted.
Yeah, and then with Grimoire of Zero, like, yes, again, I've had complaints about like the fan service and like some of the writing, but it's also not a bad show. Like, I don't know. I'm still like interested enough in where it goes. I just don't know if it's, I don't know. What do you think at this point? Do you think it's going to have like an interesting second half or not?
I do.
Yeah.
During their recap episode, they seem to... Oh, you're talking about Grimoire, right?
Oh, yeah, Grimoire. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. I was still stuck on Alice and Zoroku.
No, yeah, I think I moved on. I think that show's safe for now.
Yeah. Grimoire is... I honestly don't know where it's going, and that's probably why it still has my interest.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like the lore. I want to know what's going on with the king. He seems to be somehow important. I mean, he's funding 13 and stuff, but I want to see more of this magic that does crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But my big thing is, between these three shows, I don't see another show out there that is better than them, if not they're equal.
I feel like maybe KADO would be more interesting to talk about week to week than Sakura Quest. But then again, PA Works has a great track record as a studio. And I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that Sakura Quest will get more interesting as it goes along. And like I like some of the quirky characters in that show. Like I love the weird blonde-haired artist dude who just wanders around town, and I love the like short dark-haired bartender who is trying to like set people up a couple episodes ago. And like I like a lot of these side characters.
Angelica?
Yeah, Angelica's bar. Like I guess her name must be Angelica. I didn't realize that.
She doesn't have short hair.
Oh, is it long? I don't know.
It's long,
she's
and
gorgeous.
She keeps it in a ponytail that goes over one eye, which is a huge thing of mine. I don't know why.
That's why it is. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I love Kadota and Oribe, who are constantly arguing with each other because they clearly need to just fall in love already, but they hate each other.
So basically, that show has interesting characters. They just need to set up really good scenes for them.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Like
put mix and mingle them a little. Put the two that don't mesh well in an interesting situation. I mean, they could have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think KADO will continue to be a show that's like worth watching out for. Like I think I'll definitely finish out that show and see how it goes. It keeps having interesting developments, but I don't know. I guess it just doesn't crack the top 10 still for me.
Yeah, same here. Well, actually, except for that Tsuki got Kirei.
Yeah, which is not getting dropped. It's a lock, baby. It's a lockdown. Yeah, and then World End, like, yeah, I also think World End isn't quite as good as any of the shows we're watching. Especially the last 2 episodes got pretty dumb. And then, yeah, Quan Zhi Gao Shou, which I mentioned, is fun at times. Like, it's like really better than you would expect, but then it's still just too uneven to be something I would really want to talk about. So yeah, I guess we're actually not going to cut anything in an unprecedented move. Like last season, we cut a lot of shows mid-season.
Yeah,
we were also
we also watched a lot more than this.
Yeah, but yeah, so I guess we'll stick with what we've got. I guess that's a little boring, but I
wonder if this will be the last time we ever do that.
Yeah, this might be like the last time we don't cut stuff. I guess it means that we made good choices though. With the shows that we did pick. So far, I would say our picking system works very well. Yeah, it's worked really well so far. So, all right. Are you done? Yeah, I'm done. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to us on YouTube to get updates on new podcasts or videos. And follow us on Twitter at Nerdom and Other for updates as well. See you guys. Peace.